welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I'm going to give a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Philip Simon, Will Brax, Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Good type. The liquid or putty works good.
That flex tape, I mean, you ever see the commercial for that? They stop water gushing out of a boat with that stuff.
That's a commercial.
Maybe I don't got it on right. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. I'll try again today.
Hey Nathan, hey lads.
Hey,
Hello.
Brian.
How's it going?
But
You all set to do your presentation?
I was just going to ask.
yeah,
Excellent.
it won't be that long. It'll be more like 25 minutes maybe at most, and that it can be interactive, so it doesn't have to be all strict, kind of way like the other one, or whatever way you want to do it. But it won't. It's just a shorter presentation.
Okay, no worries.
What's it on, Brian? The sun?
Brian? What's it on? What's the presentation actually on?
He said the sun
Hey,
yesterday.
sorry about that. I just put my hands underneath the tap. I just washed my hands a minute. They asked me. Yeah, it's about the sun, mainly about the sun. But there's one other topic I want to cover, but it's mainly just about the sun and sunsets, basically. That's about the size of it.
Cool. So yesterday in chat on your show, Nathan, I'm going back and forth with a Kumu virus, whatever his dumb name is. And he won't give me a claim. He keeps saying that we make up our own claims about heliocentric model to debunk. So I said, okay, give me a claim. And he won't do it. He reversed his claim about the black swan. He's asking me what the black swan debunks. So I pretty much had it with him. And then he finally gave me a claim about 2 points in the sky. The same thing my son does with the antipodal. I'm like, you're already assuming you're on a sphere. He says, I never mentioned the sphere. Isn't he mentioning the sphere when he's talking about being antipodal?
Yeah, hemisphere is normally the word they use.
Maybe he just said hemi.
They say, how do you account for the star rotation in the southern hemisphere? That's a very oversimplistic way of what they'll ask, but you know what I mean. That's what they'll say. If you don't know that,
Yeah, but he didn't say that. He made sure he didn't say hemisphere. He said 2 rotation points in the sky.
What does that prove?
Antipodal, one antipodal from the other.
Yeah, Neil, when they don't insert the presupposition, then you have to ask, well, what does that prove exactly?
I just told him he's assuming it's sphere. I don't really want to talk to him anymore.
No, but if they're not assuming a sphere, and they just say there's 2 rotation points, one in the north and one in the south.
Right.
Yeah, well, my north on a compass is that way towards the horizon, and my south is that way on a compass towards the horizon. Okay, yeah? So other than them assuming hemispheres, it doesn't prove anything, Neil. So if they don't just say, well, you're assuming a sphere, and they say, well, I didn't mention sphere. Just recognise that if they haven't begged the question, they're not actually proving a damn thing in the first instance, and you need to point that out to them. Yeah, okay, so there's two lots of stars rotating, one in the north, one in the south. Yeah? And?
Okay, so then what is a baller's next response to that?
Well, if they don't... I'll just say it once more, Neil. If they don't beg the question that these rotating stars are taking place on the bottom of a sphere, therefore the Earth's a sphere, then what are they telling you? They're telling you that in the north there's some stars that rotate above your head, and in the south there's some stars that rotate above your head. So what?
Yeah, I understand that.
But it's proving nothing.
So they yeah, I would just like to know. All right, I'll try. I'll see what their comeback is after that.
It's their job to then tell you how it proves something. And at the point they
Right.
say, well, it can only take place on the bottom of a sphere like that. That's when you say, so you're assuming a sphere then?
Right. So you trapped them first.
They don't jump down people's throats for assuming a sphere if their example doesn't prove anything. Because they haven't assumed the sphere. So just say, well, okay, how does that prove something? What does it prove exactly? And at some point they will say, well, that will only work on a sphere. That's when you jump down their throat for begging the question.
I thought antipodal meant that because if you're saying antipodal,
yeah,
you're
if he
saying
said
you're totally on the
antipodal.
opposite side.
Yeah, if he says antipodal, then yeah, he's assuming a sphere. Because you can't
did
be
say
hanging off the bottom of
antipodal,
a
that's
sphere
what I said.
antipodal from the position you're asking it to be compared to, if you're not at the bottom of the other position on a sphere, precisely as they assume, and exactly as you're pointing out. So yeah, antipodal sums that up.
Yeah, he did say the word antipodal. I wrote it down.
Then he assumed a sphere.
Yeah, so you were right.
That's what I said.
Hey, Nathan, it occurred to me when the last few times you said that the black swan argument, the modus tollens, is not a flat earth proof, but a globe sphere destroyer. And it truly is, because obviously with the numbers of 3959 and the observer height of 1 feet, the geometric horizon can be no further than 1.22 miles out. Correct?
Yeah, that's how far Earth curve could be on a geometric sphere that they claim, yeah?
All right. Well,
Adam.
then the sextant and the way I've been describing it and researching it and the way they say it works is the flat earth proof. So the black swan destroys the globe, but the sextant proves the flat earth because you can't have an angle without two straight lines.
I'd agree with that.
So we got them covered. It's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Can I read it just the way he said it to me?
Go ahead, Neil.
Okay. A cumuvirus globe proof. Two celestial points of rotation in the sky antipodal from each other. That's assuming a sphere.
It's assuming that the rotations are antipodal from one another. In other words, the star rotations in the north are above your head when you stand in the north. But the same rotations are occurring beneath your feet, antipodal from your position, underneath you. Well, that's to assume that the stars are underneath you in the south.
Yep.
That's not proving a sphere, that's assuming a sphere. How do you explain these lights in
Yep.
the sky that I assume are underneath your feet when you go south? Well, you've just assumed that they're underneath my feet when I go south.
Yeah, it's kind of pathetic.
Afternoon, by the way. It doesn't even prove sphere. It proves, if anything, it's antipodal, isn't it? Which doesn't in itself refer to the shape you're on. It refers to the direction being antipodal.
They're assuming the viewing position is antipodal. You're hanging off the bottom of a sphere to see them rotating beneath your feet.
So what I mean by that is you could be hanging off the bottom of a dodecahedron. The actual antipodalness doesn't in of itself add any validity, other than it's not flat. If you could prove it's antipodal, all it does show is that those two supposedly the same views are actually in opposite directions, but it doesn't define the nature of the surface.
Okay, so what you're saying is if you had a plain piece of paper and you were to assume in that statement that you were antipode when you went south, you could, by virtue of the claim not having a specific shape attributed, just the word antipodal, you could assume that you were then hanging off the flat piece of paper to see the star rotation underneath the piece of paper rather than underneath the sphere. Okay, I see your point. So they're not necessarily assuming a sphere, but they are definitely assuming that you're hanging off the bottom of something when you're viewing stars in the south.
Yeah. I'm being an arse.
Yeah, but we know they're talking about a sphere because they're trying to prove a globe. If he says these are my globe proofs,
Goes without
what the heck
saying.
is he talking
Absolutely. It goes without saying. Of course they're assuming a bloody sphere. They're not assuming a dodecahedron or a flat page that you're on the bottom of. They're assuming a sphere. We all know that.
Well, who hasn't held a compass in their hand or set one on a table to realize the points north, south, east, and west? But that's on a flat plane.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man. Have we got Arwin yet? No, hasn't disturbed my intro. Brian's Logic, Father of a Stolen Child, and the Adam Meakin, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how are things?
Hey, good morning.
Afternoon, everyone.
Stay the day.
Things are fab. Things are doing great. Let's do some housekeeping.
Good.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that's formerly known as Earth curve?
No. There is no geometric horizon.
There's
In
no
reality.
Earth curve.
No. If
Right,
it was,
that's
I
it.
would have found it. After
Thanks
6
for
years.
tuning in. Thanks for coming. That's the end of the discussion.
If there was, Bri, it would be constrained, wouldn't it, by its geometry, and therefore would be in a very, almost identical position every day.
Yeah, exactly. If it was geometric, then it would have to adhere to the geometry of the globe Earth.
So you're saying it would have limitations?
Yeah, like 1 foot from a 1 foot observation height, for instance, it could only be 1.22 miles away from you. But we know that it's a lot more than that often from a 1 foot observation height. So,
Brian,
Well, Brian, how many horizons do we have?
only have the one that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I agree.
what Brian and 10th are doing is they're dumbing down the black swan to the point where it's being described as a hill. So Earth curve, physical Earth curve obstruction, the geometric horizon, is a hill that gets in the way, and it would have those physical geometric limitations all day, every day, if we lived on a sphere. It wouldn't move with the weather, because it would be a hill in the way of things. It just isn't. The horizon's not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, because if there was, we would see drift when any object is left the surface of the Earth.
There used to be until airplanes were invented, and then they stopped being.
So it just magically went away.
Yeah, well, I mean, before airplanes were invented, the sun and the moon and the stars all went across us. Now, they failed to tell everyone that they move at 3 different rates. That's besides the point. But they invented airplanes then, thanks to the Wright brothers, and they found out no, there was absolutely no evidence of it.
So if the sun, moon, and stars are moving at 3 different rates, then that means the sun, moon, and stars are moving at 3 different rates, not the Earth.
That's exactly it. 3 different rates.
Well, everything's in motion.
I'm not in
Except
motion right now.
Hold on, I got to play baller for a minute. Everything's in motion.
Oh, okay.
except for us. The Earth is not in motion.
Just like pizza dough.
Well,
But
that's why we
Go on, father of a soul and child. Everyone wants to get a piece of this. Go ahead.
Well, that's what gyros measure rigidity in space. So they measure our movement.
And where's this gyro
That's it.
position
They sound
down?
very
Do
confident.
the gyros match the celestial star rotations?
No, they match our movement, the sun's movement.
Hold on, I'm confused. You've just told me they're fixed in space, which is what I understood gyros to do. They spin. If you've got a wheel of a bicycle and you put it on the end of your finger and spin it, yeah, you can tilt your hand in any direction and the wheel will essentially stay the same way. Yeah, that's gyroscopic motion. So in other words, it's fixed in space, as you called it. How did you term it? Rigid in space or something like that?
Yeah.
Right. That's what gyros do. They stay fixed in their spinning reference. That's what they do. So now you're saying, well, go on.
I'm saying, can I clarify? It seems to me the claim is that the gyro would be subjective, would kind of demonstrate, because of its rigidity in space, you're saying it would demonstrate the path of the Earth rotating on its axis, but it wouldn't be affected. Its rigidity in space wouldn't be affected by the path around the sun, path of the solar system around the galactic center, etc., etc. Those movements in free space would not be accounted for, but the rotation of the Earth on the gyro would.
Well, those movements are, in comparison, so angularly small they wouldn't be perceptible.
15 degrees an
except
hour.
over a long period of time.
No, 15 degrees an hour is what they claim. So the claim is, now I'm not saying this happens, but the claim is that a gyro, which is rigid in space, will drift in its cage to the tune of 15 degrees an hour as it is claimed Earth rotates beneath the fixed frame of the spinning gyro. That's the claim. 15 degrees an hour drift. So in other words, what you're watching is a Coriolis deviation. You're attached to the claim to be spinning reference frame of Earth, and the gyro's in fixed space. So when you see it appear to move, the gyro's not moving, it's you seeing apparent deflection at 15 degrees an hour because you're turning underneath the rigid frame of reference of the spinning gyro. That is their claim.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. So given their claim is you will observe drift in the gyro because it's rigid in space and you turn beneath it along with the cage it's attached to, you are claimed to see, or it is supposed to be apparent, that there's a 15 degrees drift if Earth's turning beneath the gyro as claimed. But that means Earth would be turning under anything else that isn't attached to the non-inertial turning claimed to be reference frame of a spinning Earth. Now, if that is the case, as they claim, then flight times would be reduced when travelling west, because Earth would be turning beneath them for us to observe this effect, claimed by the gyro. And we do not observe shortened flight times travelling west because Earth's turning beneath aeroplanes. Quite the contrary. Often, they're short of going the other way.
Well, that's the conservation of angular momentum making them seem to not drift.
What's that measured in?
Radians.
Black Swan. Kudos to you, by the way, John. I love that, mate. Have you heard this, Adam? Were you here yesterday when John dropped that on us?
No, I think I nicked off, but
I'll give a brief summary, then I'll let him pad it out. So I'm looking for a way to take straight from Coriolis to Black Swan, and John did it with an extra step. So you offer up a discussion like we just have about the drift in a gyro at 15 degrees an hour as it's claimed Earth turns beneath it. And then the response to that is that's conservation of angular momentum, right?
yeah.
Well, I'll leave John to take it from there. I've just exercised his debunking of that.
I'm accepting the conservation of angular momentum, yeah?
At this stage, yeah. Go ahead, John.
Yeah.
Do you want to pad out the rest?
Well, conservation of angular momentum is measured in radians. You need a radial value for that.
Yep.
And that's a problem.
Black Swan.
Well, yeah, you can calculate the angular momentum, but you can't apply it to any practicality. It's just, it has no units, does it? So you require R to
I think
change that angle.
exactly, to make that rebuttal, you require R.
Yeah. Very good, sir.
Very good. I love it too. Black Swan, man. It's like the Swiss Army knife of globe debunkings, isn't it? Saw down a tree with it and then open a can
That's
with
a good analogy.
I like the batting off of the gyro as well. They're too small, those angular changes. So nobody ever even bothered to demonstrate them. They're just
Yeah, the changes at 15 degrees an hour are the thing that's supposed to be claimed to prove that we spin, though.
I would, if I'd have kept going with it, I'd have said celestial precession would proven that.
That's also Coriolis effect in their world. These are all Coriolis claims, John. Let's just keep it. I don't want to keep saying father of a stolen child. They're all Coriolis claims, right? You turning beneath the celestial objects to observe them appear to move, not because they're moving, but because you're turning beneath them. Well, that's Coriolis effect again.
Yep.
the stars are one of their better examples of a Coriolis. At least they were consistent. Yeah, but if you, as I was mentioning, until the invention of aeroplanes, things that could propel themselves, that was a good example. But I don't think Ballers placed the star movement as a Coriolis effect. But
no, the reason they don't, in my personal opinion, is because that so thoroughly anchors them to the 15 degrees an hour drift. So while it's there in the background, they don't often assert it because then there's no moving over to the conservation of angular momentum. Because conservation of angular momentum is a rebuttal to the reason we're not seeing any drift in aeroplanes or in gyros. We don't see it in gyros either. It's only claimed to happen on a fog gyro. Nevertheless, the reason we don't see it in drones and hot air balloons and blimps and helicopters and aeroplanes and anything else that's not attached, as we should, they then move on to conservation of angular momentum. Whereas how do you move from the stars movement with a Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour to, well, they're not deflecting at all because we're conserving the momentum of the stars? They can't shoehorn that argument in with the stars, so they don't have to make that argument.
So when the sun is setting, Earth is the reason that it looks like it's setting because the Earth is spinning under the sun, according to the ballers. But it doesn't work with the planes.
Got you presented, Paul, but there's nothing. Oh, there we go. It's a mechanical gyro sat on a compass.
whose is that? Whose is that?
That's John's, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, that's what's Rob Durham's.
Rob
It's
Durham's,
Rob
isn't
Durham's.
it? It's not John. It's not Savage's.
Rob
It's
Durham.
Rob Durham's. He's
Yeah, it's the bit of plasticine counterweight on Rob's.
yeah.
Thought I recognised it. I've played with that one at the conference.
By comparison to Foucault, who had access to these sorts of things, what Foucault did with his gyro was hand cranked the thing up to about 500 RPM, maybe a bit higher, and it would it would decay in a matter of minutes, a couple of minutes, and then that would be all he got. And he had to extrapolate out this claimed deviation at 15 degrees an hour on mechanically what is compared to this. Now, I'm not saying I don't care about the marketing of this. They probably market it as a toy, but I don't care. The precision engineering in this particular gyro, by comparison to what Foucault had, is orders of magnitude better. Just there's no comparison.
Can I say something there, Nathan?
Go ahead.
Something I forgot about. I just put the pieces together there now because I learned what you just talked about there with Foucault's pendulum. I learned that, and I learned what I'm going to say now at a completely different time. I put a lot of learning into the gyro compass years ago, back 2017, I'd say it was 16, 17, and I listened to a captain of a ship, and he stated the only reason that the mechanical gyro within the gyro compass or any mechanical gyro will ever drift is because it doesn't have the correct RPMs. Now, Foucault's pendulum wouldn't have had the correct RPMs because he's losing RPMs from the minute he lets it go, because it's not going to continue to hold at 500 RPMs or whatever. So there's a particular RPMs that it has to go up there, and if you start trying to use it before it has the correct RPMs, if you start trying to use the gyro compass before the gyroscope has the correct RPMs, it will cause it to drift. So Foucault was just working off of a gyroscope that didn't have the correct RPMs, and that's why it started drifting. So that's all it was. It was just a mistake, kind of like Al Biruni with his astrolabe. He didn't use it correctly.
Cool. You happy to keep this up, Paul? You might not be able to come off mute without.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'll keep it as long as I can. And one thing too, he actually shows. I started a little bit into the video, but he shows even just any bit of slight movement, that gyro starts to precess. I guess I could try to rewind and show it. Let's see.
While you're doing that, this is running at a couple of thousand RPM, I believe. Is that right? It's been a long while since I watched this.
Yeah, and I think he even does it later where he probably everybody's starting to scream. I can't be quiet at all. But yeah, I think he even balances it and puts a motor on it so it can run longer in such a way where the motor will run even longer than just spinning it up initially. So okay, I'm gonna have to mute myself.
Okay. You can bash it back up to about 4.5 minutes, just so it was where we were before. That'd be great. Thanks. Perfect.
Another thing about the gyroscope, I think Paul's on mute now, so another thing about the gyroscope is that it'll precess in the direction, and this is what the captain said as well, it will precess in the direction that the motor is turning it. So if it's precessing, let's just say east to west or west to east, that's only because the motor is turning it in that direction. It'll precess in that direction. So I mean, the claims concerning it, we all know it's nonsense anyway, but I'm just saying the claims concerning it are really, really flawed.
Or if it's pushed beyond the cage parameters. So I'm sure that 2 or 3 years ago we were talking about pendulous vanes and the corrections they needed to be made for. And after investigation, it turns out that they're really only correcting after hard banks and things like that.
Yeah, they're just a damper system. That's what pendulous vanes are, just damper system.
Cool. But the bottom line is, they claim this gyro should drift. That's their claim. 15 degrees an hour. It's not budging a smegging inch. Yeah, and I've seen this done by loads of different people. Varying gyros. The only exception to it is the fibre optic gyro, which is claimed to drift at 15 degrees an hour.
Yeah, you know those ring laser and fiber optic gyros? I don't know what the full claim is with them, because we're only getting claims from ballers about them, and obviously Bob Nodell. It mostly goes back to Bob Nodell. But if you have one of those in an airplane that's on the ground, because they have to spin that up, that has to be spun up at least half an hour before the plane is ever going to do anything. So how could they fly with a gyro that's precessing all over the place? 15 degrees an hour? How could they trust that gyro? And how could they take off with a gyro that's processing at 15 degrees an hour? Because they'd have to know that before they fly.
The other interesting thing with that, with the fogs, whatever, all these opticals, is as the claim that appears to be being made from the ring laser gyro data, was that there appears to also be a difference in the rate of drift with altitude. So if you can imagine then the calculations that must be required for these ring laser gyros to actually be of any practical use, and how is that practical use comparable to your mechanical gyro that stays still during all this?
Exactly. Like, I mean, why would you use a ring laser or a fiber optic gyro if they were going to precess on you? You know, if they're going to be messing around on you. If you're flying an airplane.
If I'm flying at 50,000 feet, then the rate of precession is different to 30,000 feet, 25,000 feet. So all of that is, supposedly in this device that they're using, but in the optical, it's changing, whereas in the mechanical, it's not. Yeah. So how do they then have to accommodate for that data to be realized and useful? Do you see what I mean? You've got to have all the knowledge of the data. If it is rotating at a slightly different speed at different altitudes, then you've got to have all that level of data being processed for the optical gyro to yield anything practical. And remember, they're an upgrade from the mechanical, but the mechanical never demonstrated this. The two aren't comparable. That's Rob's other setup there, isn't it? That's with the full spin and the counterweight, isn't it? Sat on it. You've got the counterweight there and then the motor, so it just drives constantly. It's kept at the 6 revs.
Yeah, so the only reason that you'd have the drift that you're describing needing to be mathematically accounted for to provide any use to the gyro, which is supposed to remain in a fixed plane of reference. Well, if it's not doing that and you're having to account for that, like you say, it suddenly stops seeming to be useful, especially as its predecessor didn't do that. But then it begs the question, why would it be doing that? If they're saying it's claimed the fiber optic gyro drifts at 15 degrees an hour because Earth's turning beneath it. That's what they're claiming. That's what the globers attribute to that drift in the fiber optic gyro only. Well, if Earth's turning beneath the plane with a fiber optic gyro, then the drift you're experiencing is because Earth's turning beneath your plane, and that would shorten your flight time when travelling west.
I mean, this kind of thing would be noticed by the airlines. I mean, you have to spend a half an hour spinning, like, to get the ring laser or fiber optic gyro up to speed. It takes a half an hour before you're actually, doing anything. You have to spend a half an hour for that to be ready to be used. Now, when a plane is wanting to take off and there's other planes coming in and going out and there's a delay, I've been on planes where I could be sitting there an extra half an hour or more, 45 minutes before the plane leaves the runway, and it leaves the runway late, let's just say. So surely it would have been noticed if their ring laser or fiber optic gyro, whichever one they're using in it, surely it would have been noticed while that plane is sitting on the ground that ring laser or fiber optic gyro is precessing around all over the place. Why would you take off with a gyro that's precessing? How is that going to... I mean, the whole point of it is it's supposed to hold rigid, isn't it? Regardless of what type it is.
Yeah, it defeats the purpose. The useful aspect of a gyro that's being used in aviation is the fact that it remains rigid. The fact that it doesn't drift. Now, if the cage is drifting around it at 15 degrees an hour, it renders it useless. So that claim is just nonsense. And it would shorten flight times, if it was. Because according to their claim, if it's doing it because Earth's turning beneath the gyro to force the cage to move at 15 degrees an hour around the fixed frame of the gyro. Well, that means Earth's turning beneath the plane. So it takes off, and you've got LA coming towards you if you're travelling to it from Charlotte. Is that you, Paul? Go ahead, Paul. Oh, okay. So yeah, if you're travelling towards LA from Charlotte, west, and your gyro's drifting at 15 degrees an hour, as it's claimed to, because Earth's turning beneath it, then you're going to get to LA a lot quicker, about an hour and a half, in fact, rather than 4.5 hours. But that doesn't happen. So it's a complete nonsense claim.
Yeah, it's complete and utter, total and utter nonsense.
Move on.
I mean,
Any evidence that... Go on,
Sorry, Paul.
I was going to take us sideways a little bit, but you were talking yesterday, I think, or the day before, about John Dee and science and scientific method. And I remember you coming on Iron Realm to discuss a similar thing, to point out that this is not science, what we're seeing here. And I think, myself included, in the early days, we were thinking we were bringing scientific evidence to the table here. And I remember you raising an objection to that point with Savage, Nathan, and you know, this is really, really good stuff. It's a fantastic demonstration. It's not science. Let's not call it science. And again, got John swallowed, but he took it graciously in the end. And it's that realization, actually, that science, when we say something has science behind it, it's a lot more than what we're seeing here, which is a demonstration in terms of the validity.
Yeah, that was the one bit that QE didn't tell me. He told me after. He educated me in terms of what the scientific method was and gave me a really good grasp of what it does and doesn't have to entail in order to call it science. And after a good understanding was established on my part, he then turned around and said, "You do realise this is a double-edged sword?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, why? Sounds great to me." And he's like, "No, because you'll find that a lot of people on your own side will use this word also. They'll say science. And if your drum's going to be heard loud and clear, then you've got to beat that drum to people like that." And I was like, that's no bother. And what went through my mind is, you know, I don't know, Anthony Riley or someone like that saying science when it's not appropriate. And me saying, hey, no, you're quite wrong there. So who's the first person that this comes up with? Well, a PhD in spectroscopy, of course. Somebody far, far better educated than I. And he knows it, and I know it. I'm not embarrassed to say it. But I still had to call him up on it, and it was, I can assure you, one of the most difficult things I've done in my time during Flat Earth.
You rang me and said, should I just push on? I said, yeah, because you were like, how hard should I go at this? How persistent should I be? And I was not far behind. You know, I was still a flat earther, but I was still accepting that bitter pill that some of the stuff that I'd held as science wasn't. And I think I remember saying, yeah, just you've got to do it because you are scientists. And as soon as you twig and you realise how you've been mugged off, you accept it straight away. If you've got no other eggs in the basket, if you know what I mean. If you've got no other reason, like the shape of the Earth, to maintain that position. If you're being honest with yourself, actually, proper scientists that have gone through degrees, etc., it is a bitter pill to swallow, but you do swallow it because you have to deny it. Otherwise, it's just a point of acceptance. But yeah, I remember. How long ago was that? Was it 3, 4?
A long time.
Yeah. But
I bet John D hates the fact that that is my example of this. I bet he hates it.
I was just going to ask if John D came to that realization, what he thinks about today. Does he like cringe?
Can't speak for you. No,
I was going to say, I refer, because John, QE, and you, Nate, really, but it was QE that really I sat and chewed on it properly. And I give him kudos for slapping me out of that. I say it. And I don't think Dr. John would be any different. You're thanking someone for shaking you out of the veil, shaking it off, you know, and I don't think anybody who's genuine and a truther would see any embarrassment in coming to realise the truth. We're all
right.
mugged off.
Oh, right. Is that why pretty much every single time that happens, it ends badly for me in almost every respect? That Dr. John D is an exception to the rule, right? He's a very humble and private man. Now, I had to do the same exact thing when Netflix came out with their Behind the Curve documentary that essentially asserted that Bob had proved there was a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turned under his gyro. And I went and said the same thing to Bob. This isn't science. Now, that has ended in almost all contact between me and Bob being severed. I don't know how neutral the terms are because I don't keep in touch with him. But ultimately speaking, that was devastating to me, my channel, my reputation. Nobody wanted to hear that.
I did qualify it with the type of person.
Somebody said it in chat yesterday. Thanks, Bob. So, you're still hearing the effects of that nonsense.
Well, you turn that round, Nathan, actually, for that.
Yes, I understand that, but there's still fundies that say that's still. Thanks, Bob.
Dude, those are people like Ed.
Yeah, but
They
that
will
works.
always say the dumbest things imaginable.
But that works to our benefit when they say that.
Yeah, there was a guy, his name is John Wayne in the chat. He was really annoying me yesterday.
Did you hear what I said, Neil? That works to our benefit when they say
Yeah, no, I know it does. I know it does.
No, it was a gift. It was a gift because now we'll say, well, he was wrong too, just like you are, because if that's the case, then Earth would be turning underneath everything, and it doesn't.
Well,
Thanks, Dan.
I started paying attention to this channel because of what happened on Globebusters.
Oh, is that so? No way.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're in the minority. A lot of people just buggered off and unsubscribed and said, how dare you.
Well, where I was a baller, I was laughing at Bob at the time. And then to hear another flat earther, in my mind, pointing out where he was wrong, it was just interesting, like, I thought you guys were a cult.
No way, this gets better and better. You're telling me that somebody from the Globe side came to the channel off the back of that, and you're now a flat earther. I mean, I'm very humbled by that as a journey to this channel. That's amazing.
I'd like to correct John on his last statement, if I may. The ballers have the occult pendulum, not the flat earthers.
The cult, not faux cult.
I said occult pendulum. It's a pun.
I know it's a pun.
Well, then laugh.
There you go.
More funny to pretend I didn't get the pun and correct it.
Well, you got too serious with the pun. That's the problem. Okay, but back to what you were saying on a serious note. Anytime anybody, and Nathan did it with Bob on the scientific method, and anytime you use the word science, you've got to be careful. But anytime anybody tries to help another human being with a much clearer picture of a conversation or an event, heads are going to butt because of egos. And so most people won't do what you did, Nathan. And it was Globebusters at the initial, which I watched a few things, that brought me to your channel. And then right about that time, this thing happened with Bob. And I'm saying, oh, this should be interesting. And it was awesome for me because it was Bob saying the UK and these English guys have this show and they really debate strong and hard. And I said, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So not just John, but myself. But then afterwards, if Bob's not going to stay the course and be honest when rebuked properly and in love, well, then forget it then. I mean, you can do only so much.
I'd love to hear that show again.
Let's not open old wounds too much. Like I say, it didn't go so well for me.
The reason I raised that, Nate, was not to open old wounds, but to tell how actually we do debate, and if you get to the truth, then actually for all of that, again, ultimately, it strengthens our hand. Because if they want to cling on to that ballers and cite Bob sarcastically for it, fine. Have it. Take your 15 degrees per hour rotation, and we'll deal with that then. Like I said, and we take it. So ultimately, it's a bit of pain we all went through. A bit like having to accept what is science and what isn't. But we, at the end of it, we come out stronger. We come out able to smash their arguments better.
Well,
Some people do.
Well, some people
Others
do, yes,
never
correct,
learn.
because the assertion overlaps with a claim of ether for the guys at Globebusters, and more power to them. But it means that the way it works to our advantage, or the way that 10th Man was just trying to explain to Neil that it works to our advantage, is that it cements their claim. So they're claiming Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Here's it demonstrated in a gyro. That is their claim. Now, bearing in mind that in the debate arena, they will move away from their claim as soon as we point out it doesn't happen. So we give an example of that not happening, and then they'll argue for conservation of angular momentum. No drift, a lack of drift, not seeing the drift, but with an assumption Earth's turning and atmosphere's turning with it. So, in other words, they beg the question of the turning Earth, but don't actually have the drift to prove it anymore, and they'll argue for that. Now, the advantage comes when they say, well, Bob's proved 15 degrees an hour drift, because that cements them to that claim. And then you can point out where it doesn't occur, and they can't move across to, well, we wouldn't see drift because, when they've already claimed Bob's proving drift at 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns under a gyro. So it's useful for us. The problem comes for Globebusters that they want to reassign the assumed cause of this non-experiment, which I also pointed out to them, it's not science, as ether drift. Well, if you're going to reassign the cause to something else, it's no longer working to our advantage, because you're just making up a new claim in terms of what's causing this man-made device to have a claimed drift at 15 degrees. Well, if it's got a claimed drift at 15 degrees, and in the debate arena all they do is deny the drift when we point out it doesn't happen, we need something to cement them to it. And that gyro is it. It could be anything. It could be the pendulum for all I care. I don't care. In fact, when I made the example to Globebusters, I didn't use the gyro for that very reason. On Quantum Eraser's advice, it's like, don't use the gyro. It's too personal to them. Use the pendulum. It's the same principle, but it's not a device they're attached to in any emotional way or invested in any financial way. So when you point out that the drift, same drift, 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns under a pendulum, as opposed to a gyro, it's the same thing. It's swinging back and forth in a fixed frame of reference, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but seems to knock over the dominoes, right? Well, it's not actually drifting around and around to knock the dominoes over your claim to turn underneath it. That's Earth turning underneath the pendulum. Well, that cements them to that claim. Then you can debunk it with a flight or a blimp or a hot air balloon or a drone or anything else that isn't doing that. But not if you're going to say, well, actually, no, my fog gyro's got nothing to do with that. It's actually because of ether. What the hell's that? Drifting? Really? Okay. That's useless to us to debunk their claims of Coriolis then. So that's where, as I say, us on, if you like, Ballbusters or Flat Earth Debate have drifted apart, no pun intended, from Globebusters, because they want to use it to their advantage in terms of claiming ether drift as opposed to debunking Coriolis. So there's a discontinuity there that doesn't jive in terms of moving forward with the argument about Coriolis, which is how the gyro started and how Bob even phrased it to Netflix. So he's put it out there in those terms. If we see 15 degrees an hour drift, it's because Earth's turning beneath the gyro. And of course we won't see that. And then of course they spin it into him telling somebody around a campfire or whatever, oh no, bad news, we've seen a drift. Well, he's already made the claim that that cause is Earth turning beneath it. So, well, unfortunately, you have to stick to that if you want to then debunk it with flight times or drones or anything else that's not drifting. But just changing the cause, well, who's that helping? Nobody. But there we go. That's the long and short of the Globebusters /
Before we move on from there, we had that pun session in the middle, and Arwin's wrote the best one I've seen. It's the faux, F-A-U-X, cult pendulum. Very good, Arwin. I like that.
Wasn't that 10th Man?
No, that's me.
No.
And it's an old one because I came up with that like over 2 years ago.
I got I wish Tony was here. My in-laws, Nathan, are Scousers from my sister's side. And I remember about 10 years ago, being on the phone saying to us, all right, we got a new sofa. It's that fox leather. We're actually quite chuffed about it.
Excellent. We've spent about half an hour solid on Coriolis drift. Is it worth going through the rest of the housekeeping questions for the last third of the show?
I think Brian has something, right?
No, he's doing that in the after show.
Oh, he's doing that for sure.
Yep.
Could I kill gravity with the black swan too?
Yeah, any scientific evidence of gravity.
Well, you'd need a center of mass to assert gravity, so that's going to require radius too.
What? No, you don't. You just
you
need
do.
a bit of space-time bending.
Yeah,
Radius is
If you're going to work out average density, you need an R.
yeah. How much space-time is going to be bent by the mass of the Earth? That's going to need an R
about
value.
3%.
About 3%. Vic Reeves. 64.2% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
I came up with that 3% 2 years ago, Arwen.
So, scientific evidence of gravity, yeah, both Newtonian and Einsteinian. You need R. You're going to need R if you're going to be asserting sphere Earth and the mass thereof.
Do you need R for Einsteinian?
If you're making any claims about what the Earth does, you do, yeah.
That's kind of stating, though, that it's just... Yeah, but Einsteinian just states that a mass doesn't have to be spherical.
That's what I just said. So long as you're specifically referencing the mass of Earth, then yeah, you're going to need an R value if you're doing anything in Einsteinian mathematics. I realise it's far more expansive than that. It's dealing with the entire cosmos.
But I think it's any... I think with that, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like it doesn't matter what's... It's like mass in general, just bends spacetime. And that causes the effect. And the uneven distribution of mass causes the bending of spacetime. The effect of the bending of spacetime, and that's the effect known as gravity, supposedly. I don't know if the amount of mass matters to whether because it's just an effect. I don't know. I have to do a little bit thinking about that one. But for the other one, definitely need an R.
Okay, my understanding was it was the uneven distribution of the mass that causes the space-time to bend. And that bending of space-time is what they now call gravity, and you're describing that correctly so as an effect.
Yeah, but I don't know if... no, I'm saying the same thing as you, but I don't know if it matters what... Like, I mean, the moon bending space-time in the heliocentric model and the Earth bending space-time, it doesn't really matter. They're both bending space-time.
Yeah, but you'd only calculate them. You'd only calculate it one at a time, though.
Yeah,
How do you bend? How do you bend the concept?
You don't. We're working within the parameters of reified pseudo-Rhodian core space. None of this is real. Let's just clarify that. Good point, because we're getting a bit deep into it.
You only need 3% of the mass of the Earth in order to gain enough space-time bending momentum for the entire mass to gather.
Nurse, he hasn't taken his pills again.
No, I did.
I think it's represented in Einsteinian as K curvature. I'll have to double check though.
Yeah, we get that 3% from mathematics, Arwen, or experiment?
From maths. 10th, do you want to make that point again?
I think I said, if I can remember, how do you bend a concept?
You don't. This is all nonsense. This is all reified nonsense. None of this is actually an effect in physical reality. Only effects in pseudo-Riemannian four-space geometry, mathematics, not in reality.
It's very easy to bend a concept. You imagine it.
What are you talking about, Nathan? We're a projection of the 4D world.
No, we're not.
Well, in that concept, how much mass is needed to bend space-time? I mean, is there a certain amount of mass that's not big enough to bend it?
Yes, you need over 3% of the mass of the eventual gathering at the end of the line.
Ask him serious questions. Right, you're asking me how much mass can bend space-time. Okay, let's start at the beginning. What is space-time? Show it me, please.
It's a mathematical concept.
So it's not real. So not
no.
real. You can't show it me in physicality.
No, I can only describe it.
So you can describe something, and you're asking me how much will the description of this thing bend? This thing that doesn't exist in reality. So when 10th says this is meaningless, he's right.
I don't know. They say it's a fabric. Fabric is a substance.
Nathan, apply some fabric softener, Nathan.
Hold on. That was the most
nitpicking.
Hold on,
You're
that was the most.
Just appreciate the weave, appreciate the fabric for what it is. Maybe sleep on it. You know, you can pull space-time over your mattress and sleep on it.
Okay, right. That is the most literal reification you can have. The description of space-time as a fabric, i.e. the bending of the fabric of space-time, might be the vernacular used when describing the mathematics of pseudo-Riemannian four-space. However, there is no literal fabric. But to describe it as Neil initially did, and then Alwyn's then rolled with that a little bit further and started making beds with it, which is perfectly within the same level of farce, which is why it's epic. It's not real. None of this is real. You've reified it into an actual fabric, like they do when they show it kids. And they stretch out a piece of fabric and roll balls around on it.
Yeah,
I can prove wormholes with it too, because just take a mattress, right? Imagine that the mattress cover is space-time. Well, if you pull one end of the mattress towards the other, you got a wormhole, but it takes a lot of energy to actually do that with a mattress. So, see?
Hey, actually,
well,
there's
go on, Paul.
There's actually, I just dropped in a master B. I had to get off my computer, so I'm on my phone, so I can't really share it. But there's a video I just dropped in master B, and actually had a Glober agree with me on this one, that the actual cause of gravity is time, and that's what their argument is in this video.
Oh, cool! Can you show me that? Show me that. Show me time.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know. But it's basically the so-called like time is moving slower at my slower at my feet than at the top of my head, and because of that time dilation, that's the cause of gravity. Just watch the video. It's at Master B.
Yeah, what causes the time dilation?
Yeah. Go on, Adam. You're obviously going to go to the same place I am.
I think this is their circular loop, isn't it? Again, so that's fine. They explain that the reason is that, but what is causing time to go slower at your feet? I think it's
further away from where the space-time bending is the most concentrated, which should be at the center of mass.
So it's not causative again, is it?
Time moves fastest closer to the mass. It moves at its most fast. No. Well, I have a pair of pants that I made.
Wait. I'm sorry, Brian. Hang on a second, though. That's in the paradigm. That's not true.
That's the other way around.
Slower. Yeah, time moves slower at your feet than it does at the top of your head.
Sorry, you're right. Time slower at feet. Slower. Yeah. Sorry,
right, that's why you get stuck when you fall into a black hole for all eternity.
I think nothing seems right here. All of you are on the wrong thread.
Well,
you just need to sleep on it some more, 10th.
Oh, did you see Matthew McConaughey go through that black hole? It was amazing. Well,
can we just validate
but it was not actually a black hole. It was almost a black hole. It was singular. It was enough critical mass, literally, in order for space-time bending to happen up to a certain stable level, so that some kind of interdimensional, timeless space-time being, future human spirit, could use it as a construction template for lesser beings.
What a load of bollocks.
Good movie.
You think that's bad? Wait to hear what I have to say. I have a pants that I've made out of the fabric of space-time. So mathematically, I will be wearing pants later.
Dire. Absolutely dire.
Your pants argument is so bad you don't have a leg to stand on.
Virus leaves his pants.
If you have some doubt about space-time, just sleep on it. Literally.
You're thinking of a memory foam mattress, Arwin. Come on.
Right, speaking of space and time, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
A mattress. They sleep on it every night.
Single viable hypothesis,
Any
please.
word from Becky?
No, there's none. There's none. None
Hey,
possible.
if you know somebody that doesn't sleep on a mattress in astronomy, astrophysics, all that, I'd like to know. I think every one of them sleeps on a mattress.
No, but what about that Becky lady? She never got back to anybody. She never answered your tent at all.
Nope. Been going on 2 years.
Why is my viable hypothesis being ignored?
Mattresses isn't a viable hypothesis, Arwin. Just give it up.
But it's the proof for the bending of spacetime.
Anybody
Yeah,
from
but
Discord?
unlike gas, mattresses have springs.
Let's broaden it a little bit just for Discord. Any science whatsoever that's claimed to prove a sphere? Anyone in Discord?
Stars rotating?
Not a viable hypothesis. I haven't opened it up more broad to the panel, just to Discord. See if we can get some engagement with someone saying, yeah, I've got science for a globe.
Well, what if I said that only God has ever proven it?
What about only
sure that the sun stood still for 3 days?
I actually have something to correct.
Is that a very manipulation by the experimenter? Or
What
does the
about only
experimenter
Discord?
necessarily have to be human?
What about only Discord do you not understand?
To be fair, they're not exactly
I just
piping up, are
wanted
they? No, going once. Discord, any science for a globe? Or, if you've had something presented to you.
negative.
Go on, George. Go on.
There is none.
Bummer. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Well, not so far.
Druidia? Right.
Rudy has got containment.
Yeah, wrong example. Are there any uncontained planets actually in Spaceballs? Not too
Only
sure.
Spaceballs. I don't know about Spaceballs. Somebody corrected me
Yeah,
on this,
that-
actually. Somebody
The
said
one.
that... Hold
Sorry.
on. I was just going to say, somebody corrected me on it and said that Druidia wasn't contained until the Space Bandits, or Spaceballs, were trying to steal their air. Then they put containment around it. In other words, up until the point it was just existing next to the vacuum without any issue.
Till they brought a vacuum and put next to it.
No, they put a vacuum cleaner next to the containment that they'd put around the air that was existing in a vacuum to begin with, without any issue. So they opened up the hatch and tried to suck it all out when they turned the Spaceballs spaceship into Megamaid. But that was after they'd tried to contain their air so that it wouldn't get stolen. According to somebody who corrected me, it's been about 10, 15 years since I last watched Spaceballs, to be honest.
I don't think so.
Well,
I
wait a
think
minute, though. Hold on.
I think they always had containment. Sorry.
Well, hold on a second though. What isn't in a typical vacuum, and I've heard the Globers argue this, that it's only like a 3% or no 3 psi differential that's causing the vacuum. So think about that for a second.
Sorry, what vacuum?
Yeah.
A vacuum cleaner, there's only like a 3 psi pressure differential. That's what causes the vacuum to suck. So the gag even starts to fall apart because high up are they supposed to be, and what's the pressure differential at that height according to the globes and all this stuff? Model. I guess you're not getting it.
Well, the
No,
vacuum.
I get it. Sorry.
The vacuum isn't supposed to suck. It's actually lowering the pressure and the air particles are pushing
The
up.
pressure differential causes that, though. It's the pressure differential that causes it's entropy.
But how do you create a vacuum in a vacuum, though?
I mean,
Don't.
if you use a straw, you might, like, we say sucking because when we use a straw, that's the term we use for when we're sucking a straw. But all we're doing is creating a pressure differential.
Correct.
So when bowlers say vacuums don't suck, that's not true. It's sucking is well. They could say it's not true because there's not a human person sucking with their lips, but it's the same thing. It's the high pressure is going to go to low.
Yeah, imagine on the alien craft when you've got Sigourney Weaver trying to flush out the alien through the airlock. Well, what is the airlock in heliocentric terms? You've got them out in space, and the outside pressure is lower than the inside pressure. So when she opens the airlock, what happens? Does the outside start to go, come here, gas, and grab hold of it? No. What happens is the gas, which is expanding in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill, suddenly finds it's got more volume to fill. So it rushes out. So it's not that the vacuum that doesn't exist, we don't have a sky vacuum. It's not that the gas is being pulled away from our atmosphere in their religion of a sphere Earth. It would be that the gas is trying to expand out into whatever space it has to fill. And space, in the heliocentric world, is a space for gas to fill. So gas would fill it. In the same way as the gas, imagine you've got now, instead of the spaceship with gas pressure, you've got Earth with gas pressure. Well, they're both gas pressure. And they're both claimed to be next to a vacuum. It's just one's got a giant titanium structure around the gas to keep it there, and the other hasn't. One being a spaceship in a vacuum, the other being a globe Earth in a vacuum. Well, one would have all the gas immediately dissipate into the availability of volume. That would be a globe Earth in a vacuum, because there's nothing containing the gas. So it would just expand out into the space, and we'd all be dead. It would be 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level instantly.
It's quite cool when it's a good example, that aliens, Nathan, when you think about the gas molecule behavior, because you've got the airlock sealed, and at the moment, just before you open it, a load of molecules have just hit the airlock and they're on the way back. When you open it, the next lot that would have hit just continue on into space. But the molecules that are going the other way, they still continue going the other way. They're not, as you say, sucked out into gas. They go all the way back to the other wall, and then on the way back, or their other collision, they just continue. But it shows you the speed and the power and how many molecules are happening. That you see that. But actually, that's only a small percentage that are going out. The rest are still going in their other random directions. It's only the ones that have no longer got the impedance of the airlock door that
Exactly. And in scale terms, you can compare it. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that the airlock is comparable to, let's say you've got something that's the size of, I don't know, like a kid's toy car. You know, like one of those little kids' electric cars. Let's say the spaceship's that big. Yeah? Well, here you go. There's a better example. Let's say the size of a car's wheel by scale. And the airlock's the size of the valve. Yeah? Well, when you open the valve, it doesn't just suddenly explode. Nor does it suddenly just have every little bit of air in the tyre disappear. You have to sit with your finger on the valve for a while. Well, as Adam's described, it's because all of the air in your tyre is still bouncing off the top of it and the rubber rim on the side and everywhere else. It's only the air that bounces off a bit of tyre rim and then heads towards the valve. And when it gets to the valve, there isn't anything to stop it bouncing and going back in. It just goes straight out. And that's how you lose the pressure. But for a period, all the gas that's bouncing around is still bouncing around. It's just the gas that hits the valve has a way out.
There's a knock-on effect of that, Nathan, in the fact that air molecule that would have hit but went straight out would have come back and maybe have had a collision with a molecule that was going to be on its way out. Because it's no longer there, then what you end up doing is increasing the probability of the path rates through there, because you diminish the chance of a molecule being starting off that way and having its path affected by another molecule. So that's why it then increases like that. But
you're talking about effusion, Adam, yeah? That's what you're talking about, isn't it? What they call effusion.
I think it's diffusion, actually, not effusion.
Effusion is when effusion happens faster than diffusion. The best example of it, well, although it's not a real thing, was, remember that little hole they supposedly got in the ISS, right? When a supposed piece of debris hit it or something. Well, technically, the air should have rushed out of that through that hole faster than it would if they just opened the whole door, because as Adam was just saying, there isn't the amount of collisions happening. So to a molecule, so it's coming out faster. It's not being slowed down by collisions with other molecules. So the smaller the hole, the faster the rate of gas through it. But obviously, that's effusion, yeah.
Okay, I was going to emphasize that it's.
Sorry, Arwin, I'm just going to read out this super chat. I'm really sorry, you have to bear with me. Shout out to Retro Bill, who says, MC Toon strongly denies the claim that the necessary antecedent for gas pressure is a container. He wants a citation for the claim. I'll give him one, no worries. So, Conspiracy Cats. Without the container, there can be no pressure. There's a quote for you, a citation. Take it up with Conspiracy Cats. But what we actually say for MC Toon's benefit is show us gas pressure without a container. I'll accept it in a heartbeat, MC Toon. You just need to show us gas pressure without a container. Beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that the sky is a vacuum. So beyond your religious belief that the sky is a vacuum, show us gas pressure without a container. Because I can show you thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of examples of gas pressure with containment. That's not an issue either. Just go and buy yourself some propane. They won't be giving you in a wheelbarrow. They'll be giving you in a container. But if you can show us gas pressure without a container, beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that the sky is a vacuum, then I will accept your demonstration that a container isn't really required to have something to press on to create pressure. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, smashed the super chat, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Pressure situation. What was said about, it's going to move gradually out? No, that's only here on Earth where there is a relatively stable gas pressure. If you're going to open the valve of a tire in a vacuum chamber, it's not just going to slowly go out. No, it's going to explosively rip open, right? And this is even demonstrated in a movie, right? In Interstellar. Was it Interstellar? Yeah, when that panicking guy tries to dock in an improperly connected system. And then, there's basically a gas opening. Well, the extreme pressure differential between the vacuum outside and the pressure inside literally will rip open steel. Right? That's what actually happens. It's not just going to gradually push its way out. It's going to explosively go through the seams. If there's an actual vacuum out there. Because if it's not an actual vacuum, if it's just regular air pressure, then it's going to be pushed back again slightly at the air outside. And so it's going to go slower and it's going to gradually expand. It's a big difference.
What's the maximum force that it can apply?
There is no maximum force.
Yeah, it's the force
maximum force is the speed of the molecule.
That is the pressure. That is what you calculated based on the force over a given area.
The maximum force should be based on the volume of the available container, which in outer space heliocentrism is infinite volume.
No,
about 14 psi.
The forces can only be generated by the internal pressure that you've got, the speed of the molecules, the temperature they're at, and the aperture that they're going to go through and the nature. The rupturing of the aperture is likely to be caused by problems with the aperture. So if you've got a solid thing that's designed to let air out, then it will go out there without causing damage to it. If you've got something that's going to be affected by the forces and could rip it at that level of that pressure, then it might affect it. So a hole punctured in the side of something may rip and rupture more, but opening an airlock which is structured, designed to take that, isn't going to rip anything out, irrespective of whether it's a vacuum outside or just a low, the only difference in terms of some of the escape speed, in my understanding, would be any return path. So if you did have some pressure outside, some molecules would be coming the other way, which would slow down the rate of escape because they collide some back the other way and some will be coming in. But the rate of escape is solely determined on the speed of the molecules before you let them out.
Okay, interesting. So I got a sci-fi knowledge question in that case. Was the spaceship docking in Interstellar, was that actually an airlock or was it just a connecting tube? Because it didn't give signs that it wasn't actually a separated airlock where you could get into from within the ship to exit to the outside. It really seemed like a connector point. So maybe it's a different scenario as in Aliens, where it definitely was an airlock.
It was an intense scene, though, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, it was really awesome. Interstellar's freaking... It was really the last movie that I really enjoyed believing outer space.
Me too.
Flat Earth. Genius.
So you
And I was really like, what? Moon landing fake? What is this?
Yeah, that's a monkey wrench they threw in.
Yeah, great movie.
It's easier to picture it the other way around. So if you've got something that's got a pressure differential that's relatively high, like a submarine, try to create the same scenario with two things that are connecting. Imagine if they weren't, what would happen? Well, it would happen the same as described out in the fake region of space, but in reverse, because the pressure isn't the pressure on the inside trying to get out, it's the pressure on the outside trying to get in. But the effect would be the same. The total amount of force that could be exerted would be the force of the pressure of the water on the outside of the hull at whatever it is at that breach, and that's how much pressure it'll exert when it's trying to get in. Likewise, any system with air that's suspended in a vacuum for whatever reason, it's going to exert whatever amount of pressure is on the inside of the hull by comparison on whatever area it's trying to get through. No more, no less. Like you say, Adam's got the far better understanding of this because he's describing in a pressure differential system. So like with a vacuum cleaner, you've still got a pressure on the inside of the vacuum cleaner. Well, that's going to reduce the efficiency because it's not just vacating all of the space and then you're getting full on whatever 14.7 psi or whatever atmospheric pressure is, trying to force its way into that available space, i.e. the molecules that would have hit another molecule and bounced off, are then just got a straight route into the chamber of the vacuum. But there's also gas pressure inside the vacuum that's forcing it back out. So some of the gas is still trying to go the other direction. And that's stopping the air that wants to go in having a clear path to go in, and therefore reducing the overall pressure of the system on its way into the chamber of the vacuum. So there's much more to it than just describing it in what could be described as a perfect vacuum in science fiction at 10 to the minus 17 torr. In other words, there's no back resistance from the air outside because there isn't any. So it just flows out at whatever the pressure it was measured at inside the hull of the chamber.
Can you show me a closed container in nature, please?
You're standing in one.
Coconut.
Begging the question.
Coconut.
Really? How do you know it's closed?
The water doesn't leak out of it.
Or the water inside. So how do you know?
You ever tried to get into a coconut?
You can hear it.
Yeah, ever tried to get into a coconut?
What about your lungs?
It's not an isolated system.
No, your lungs are...
It's a closed system. Sound still passes through it. You can determine what is in there. That is a liquid in there.
Who cares? What's your point?
Spawn.
Who cares? Why are you asking, Ed?
How did the liquid get in there?
Well, he lost. He lost.
Sorry, why?
He lost.
Why?
Ed,
Hello, trying to talk to Ed, whoever that is. Why do you ask? What's this proving or refuting?
Can you show one or not?
Sorry, you're bringing up this because... Second attempt. Third attempt.
Because
I'll
you're
just
tagging
remove
the
you.
question with the container. You're talking about containers for like 15 minutes, but all I hear is man-made
This is their
examples.
new argument.
So show me one in nature, please.
He just did.
Did. And you denied it. So, can we move on?
No, he didn't.
Okay,
Okay.
you tell us where the
But you
coconut is.
didn't.
What's
Okay,
a coconut?
no worries. He denies that coconut's closed system.
How does
Okay.
the water get in?
Sorry, who cares?
Well, it's not closed then, is it?
Once it falls off the tree, it is, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, the water
Yes.
doesn't get out, yeah. Anyway,
They
it's
float.
the second time we've gone around this circle. Ed, anything more
That's
to
not
add
all
further?
that's
Sorry,
not all
other
that's
than
in there, by the way.
Ed, other than you clarifying how sure I am about a coconut, anything else further to that? Second time we've gone around that circle.
Well, I still didn't hear an example.
Okay, you did hear an example. You're just an idiot.
So how come you don't answer our question? What does this
No, you
prove?
didn't
What are
give
you
me any.
asking?
Okay,
We
I've given
answered
you an
your
example of a
question,
closed
now answer
system. You don't
ours.
accept it. Okay? Fine. So that's the end of the conversation. You don't accept my example?
Try an almond or walnut.
Yeah, but they
next
don't
time.
answer our questions, though. We answered
The
his, now
coconut
answer
water getting-
ours. What's it prove?
Ed doesn't answer questions. It's
Oh.
irrelevant. Right.
Now can you show
No,
us
I
now can you show us
did.
a system in nature that is open with gas pressure beyond your fundy belief in a sky vacuum?
No. We're still at the closed container in nature, Nathan. We're not going to move on.
Well, I've already given you one. What you mean? So
Ed's in a
what you mean is,
coconut, guys.
I ask you
Ed,
for an
did you-
example. You get one on the spot. You deny that example without any justifiable reason why the example isn't a reasonable demonstration of a closed system, and you're just going to stay here indefinitely. No, we're not staying here indefinitely. If you've got nothing else, that's the end for you, Ed.
If the coconut is closed, how does the water get in?
So we're established that we have got examples of closed systems then.
How about watermelon?
Because
No, I
it's not
asked
an
you, how does the water get in?
isolated system.
Didn't ask
Ed.
for an isolated system.
Exactly. It's a closed system.
Uh-huh. No,
How about
no, it
watermelon,
isn't.
Ed?
Otherwise, the water wouldn't get in.
How about the watermelon, Ed?
Same story.
So what you
How about
want is,
watermelon?
so let me get it straight.
What about
You want
watermelon?
a closed system that is developed out of the nothingness of existence to be a closed system. It kind of grown into being a closed system. That's not allowed. It must just exist in nature, having been created out of nothing, and be an example of a closed system. That's what you want.
No,
our
the
examples-
examples you gave are not closed systems.
Okay, so let's just hear you say it. A coconut is not closed. Just let's hear you tell us that in those terms.
No. You're not going to twist this, Nathan. It's not a closed system.
What's not?
Pay attention. now.
What isn't?
The examples you gave.
Which was
Coconut.
what? Which was what? Do you want to just tell me what you're refuting with a full sentence, perhaps?
Which was what? Are you kidding me? You just said it 10 seconds ago. Come on, stop playing games.
So let's hear you refute it in a full sentence, a full statement refuting what I've stated.
Yeah, I just did. The examples you gave are not closed systems. There.
What were the examples given? So do you want to say specifically what my examples were and then state that they weren't closed
You only
examples?
gave one, so that one.
Say
What
it,
was that?
Nathan.
What was that?
Yeah, you only gave one example, so that example.
So say it.
Say it.
Why? Hello?
Just waiting for you to say it, Ed.
Are you guys there?
Waiting for you to say a full
Yeah,
statement.
why?
I'm waiting for you to make
Yeah,
a
I
full
just did.
statement.
I did.
Yeah?
I did. The one example you gave is not a closed system.
And what was that?
So
What was
try
the one
again,
example? What was that? Do you want to say it as a full
That
statement?
one example you gave. Yeah,
Say
I
it
just
in full.
did as a full statement.
Yeah, that's not.
No,
I don't
I'm
know
not
what
gonna
the
repeat
example
your
was. I've got
exact words,
amnesia.
Nathan.
What
No.
one, Ed?
I'm not going to play your kiddie games.
What? my
That's
game
fine.
where I get you to make a clear statement of what you are claiming is not
I
a
just
closed...
made a clear statement.
Yeah, fundy mute the shit out of me while I make it plain to you what I'm asking. I'm asking you to declare quite boldly and clearly what you deny and how you deny it. The thing you're denying as a closed system, I want you to name it so I can... So, Ed, so I can trim it out and call you a fuckwit. That's what I want, Ed. So I want you to say what a coconut is or isn't in a full statement so I can trim it out and call you a fuckwit. Do you understand?
Right, so you just said it again. In that example you gave is not a closed system.
What's that then? What's not a closed system?
The thing you said not 10
Which
seconds
is what?
ago.
Which is what?
Are you dumb?
Which is
Are you
what? Just say it. Just say it, Ed.
Did
Embrace
you
embrace
already
your
forget what you
stupidity.
said, Nathan?
Embrace your stupidity, Ed,
Did
and
you
just say
already
it.
forget what you said?
You're going to rumpus me, right? While I point out how fuckwit you are, you're going to rumpus me, you fucking coward.
No, I'm not rumpusing you.
So just say it.
Obvious.
Just say it, you coward. Make your statement nice and clear so we know what isn't a closed
All right.
system.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that. The example you gave not even 1 minute ago is not a closed system.
Why won't you say it?
Because I'm not playing
What
your
was his
childish
example,
game.
What was my example? He won't say it because he knows that when he says it, I'll trim it out as a full statement of fuckwittery, of stupidity.
No, you're gonna cherry pick it.
Cherry pick it? No, I'm going to make a clear statement come out of your mouth. And if I don't, you'll say I've cherry picked it. Because you know you're being a fucking clown.
No, because you...
Yeah, so you won't say it because you know it's stupid. And if you say it, I'll trim it out and I can't be accused of cherry picking what you've said. But you won't say it because you know how stupid it is.
You already...
Yeah, you know how stupid you are, don't you, Ed?
Try to switch...
Yeah, you know that you're just denying it for the sake of denying it. Yeah, you know how stupid your statement is. A bit like George Netchuk, who said a closed thermos is an open container.
Right, so...
Yeah, right. So he's a fuckwit. You're a fuckwit.
System.
You're a fuckwit, Ed. And you can't make a full statement of fuckwittery because you know I'll trim it out and embarrass you with it. But you want to deny what I said a few seconds ago, so it's contextually not clear. So when I trim it out with me saying it and then you following on, you'll say it's cherry-picked and lie about what's happened here, how dumb you are and how stupid your declarations are. You'll deny them.
You already tried to twist it from closed system to the word closed. So I'm not falling for your stupid game.
Sorry, a coconut isn't a system at all.
See, you're already twisting it.
Sorry, I know what a coconut is, but you just won't say the words you're denying. I say a coconut's closed.
It's not a closed system. It's not a closed system.
What isn't? What isn't a closed system, Ed?
You're switching the words, Nathan. I didn't say closed. I said closed system.
Right.
Don't switch the words now, buddy. Right.
What is a
Don't
closed
switch the
system?
words. I said closed system, not the word closed.
What
Your trick
is
won't
a
work on me,
closed system?
Nathan.
What's not closed?
Look at how easy it is. A coconut is not a closed system, Nathan. Repeat it.
Now, Ed just wants to stick to meta
there you
talking
go.
inward spiraling forever.
Is there anything else, Ed? Is this it? Is this all you got today?
Well, you didn't give me an example of closed container in nature, so...
Oh, right.
It is a
Still
closed
at that.
container. You said closed system,
No.
but it is a closed container. Come on, bro. Listen.
No, it isn't.
Listen,
It's just...
listen. Let me finish
Yeah,
responding.
take your mic out of your mouth.
Let me
Take
finish.
your mic out of your
Let me
mouth.
finish responding, and then.
Yeah, if you take your mic out of your mouth.
Okay, great. So.
All right, thank you.
So you want to know how the water gets into the coconut? Water absorbed by the root system flows against gravity for whatever fucking reason through the capillaries to the nut. Fresh water that gets accumulated in coconut is actually endosperm, or the food or nourishment for the coconut's growth. So like Nathan said, after it falls off of the tree, the water is contained.
Bye-bye, Ed.
But it's not a closed system, though.
You sound, I mean, you're ridiculous.
It's the
Yeah, you can
system of
laugh it off,
coconut.
but
Well, if it's not closed, what is it then, Ed?
closed system.
There's only so many
No,
options
Arwin.
concerning
I didn't
systems.
say no, Arwin.
No, you did. You did. You
Arwin,
said
I didn't say
coconut's not
Ed,
closed.
I said
You
Ed,
said
Ed,
system.
yeah,
specifically
what
a coconut's
is it
not
then?
closed. You
It's
It's
fucking
not a closed
moron.
system.
closed system, not the word closed. Closed system. You're not
Fine.
listening.
Yeah, that's what
And
I
where
said.
is
So
this
if it's not a
defined?
closed system, what is it then?
Why
Not
don't
a
you
closed
define for us
system.
closed system, Ed?
Who
Define
cares?
it
So
for
what's
us.
your
Yeah,
point?
that's a good
Okay,
idea.
Ed, what's your point? What does this prove or disprove? I
I'm
asked you that
still
first.
waiting for that
So we're
closed
going to ask that he's waiting for an example, right? Okay, fine.
nature.
For what? What's it prove?
That you're begging the question with this gas pressure container.
No, you need pressure a container to have pressure. Sorry.
Right, then show
That's
me the
when you
closed
have to feed
container,
him,
please,
buddy.
in nature. Closed container in nature, please.
Coconut.
Cantaloupe, watermelon,
no, that's
walnut.
not- no, that's
he
not
asked
closed.
again. You asked again. You said closed
Bye, buddy.
container. Closed
They
container.
have
Just
us here. It's
now.
like a
You said
gotcha.
closed
He thinks he's
container.
got a gotcha.
So a coconut is a closed container.
Okay,
No,
let's let Ed
it's not a
make his
closed system,
conclusion.
though,
Everyone,
No, but is it a closed container like you just asked for in
he's
nature?
asked for it. He's
Closed
got one.
container.
Ed,
Is it?
hold
Yes
on,
or no?
Elijah. Hold on.
Nope.
Okay, Ed, what's your conclusion? Go ahead. It's your moment, my friend.
Yeah, like I said, you're begging the question with this container around the Earth.
What container?
You're saying it's a natural law or something, which doesn't even make sense. But then you can't provide one closed container in nature.
But
So
my example
you're
isn't
begging
the
the
container.
question.
No. That isn't my example. Maybe you've misunderstood my
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
Maybe
You're
talk through
begging
me.
the question.
Maybe talk through me. My example is that we have gas pressure. My argument is we have gas pressure here.
Yep. And you say it needs a container. So show
No.
me a container in
No,
nature, please.
No. That's not what I claim.
Closed container.
And maybe
Go ahead.
Fundy mute me constantly. You done it? Or am I going to get a chance to respond without you talking through me incessantly?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ed. My example's really specific. I intentionally don't claim a container.
Oh, so gas pressure doesn't require a container. Thanks.
No, that's not what I claimed. Gas pressure absolutely requires containment. Without the container, there can be no pressure. So, my argument is that if the... Fundy mute time? If the sky was Fundy mute time, clearly. Second attempt. How many attempts before I get to make my conclusion, Ed? Your conclusion,
go ahead, so
you're going to
go
talk through
ahead.
me constantly.
I'd say about 7.
Someone mute him, please. Can't control himself. I asked him to make his conclusion. His conclusion was I was begging the question of a container. Now I'm into me pointing out that my argument doesn't require a container, and in fact I shy away from my personal understanding that one is definitely there. Because in my argument it's not required. Because if the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. That's my argument, Ed. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody on the panel. Did I use the word container in that argument?
No.
So if the sky was a vacuum, on screen for my audience, this black area, claimed by heliocentrists to be 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, a space for this gas to fill. And if the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. Because what gas does is it expands in all directions. And if there's nothing for it to bounce off, then it just fills this space. Therefore, the sky is not a vacuum. Now, I don't claim to know what it is. I definitely don't claim it's a container. Others do, though, Ed. That's just not me. I claim the sky is not a vacuum, space is fake. Maybe you'd like to address that.
Ouch.
Maybe straw man me with a few more containers I don't argue about, Ed.
Yeah, you muted me, so I couldn't reply.
So you couldn't refute me by rumpusing me?
Right, so the answer is you said containment. So
no, I didn't.
Then could
They're
it be
liar.
like
Liar.
Be a
Mute him
four,
again.
or-
Someone mute him. He's just
Wait,
a liar.
Did you mute Discord
Yeah,
already?
fucking mute this twat. No, I did not mention containment. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. Said it a bit slower for you, Dumbo. Now I'll ask the panel again, so he can't lie a second time. Did I mention container?
Nope.
No, Ed,
Negative.
you dumb shit. Oh, he's gone on server deafen like Rumpus. If he can't completely ignore my claim, the actual claim, he won't listen to it. If he can't interrupt it constantly and actually gets muted, then he'll go on server deafen so he doesn't have to listen to it. So now he's off server deafen. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. No mention of containment, Edmund. You want to straw man me again?
So gas pressure doesn't require containment. Thank you.
If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill it. Space is fake. I didn't mention containment. That's the second use of a straw man, Ed. Why are you straw manning me with containers when I'm debunking space as a vacuum?
So does the atmosphere go on forever then?
I don't know. I know it's not a vacuum though, Ed. Because if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space.
Yeah,
Right, so gas doesn't require containment then. Just want to make that absolutely
Oh, no,
clear.
it absolutely requires containment, because if it didn't have any, it would just
does.
fill... You're going to talk through me, Ed. Time for the argument that's continuing with me refuting what you've just said to be talked through, right? Do I need to tell the panel to mute you again so you don't fundy mute every response?
Go ahead, Nathan. Go ahead.
Further to your rebuttal in regards to the sky vacuum, your assertion is that... You're now claiming, Ed, that you don't need containment for gas pressure. That's now your claim, Ed. So can you prove your claim that you
that's
don't...
not my claim.
Why are you fundy muting me, Ed? You just claimed it. I didn't have any claims about containment.
You're lying
Your
about
response to me, Ed,
I
don't
was
fundy
asking
mute
you.
me. Don't fundy mute me, coward. Your response in this debate we're having on
Not
this
fundy
debate
muting
platform.
you.
Fundy mute from the coward respondent. 4 times, Ed. You coward. Being pummeled.
Yeah, why don't you just mute
Why
me?
don't you listen to my response? That would be to say my argument didn't include containment. Your response did, Ed. So your claim is that you don't need containment for gas pressure. That's your claim, Ed. You just claimed it. Not me. Didn't mention containment once. You did, and you are claiming that you don't need containment. Can you prove your claim, Ed, that you don't need containment to have gas pressure beyond your fundy belief in a sky vacuum? Can you do that, Ed? Your claim, mate, not mine.
I didn't make any claim. I was asking.
Oh, really? I heard you specifically say that you didn't need containment for gas pressure. Your claim. You just made it, Ed.
Multiple times.
Multiple times, Ed. I didn't mention
So
containment. You
if
did.
the gas pressure...
In fact, you came in asking about containment. Yeah? This is definitely your claim, Ed.
Show me the gas being contained in nature.
Sorry, that's your claim, Ed. You're reversing the burden of proof and getting me to prove your claim that you don't need containment for gas pressure, because that's your claim you'd yet to prove, Ed. Why aren't you proving your claim? You're just making up stuff on the spot and not proving it. You've claimed you don't need containment for pressure. Your claim, Ed. Why aren't you proving that? Show me gas pressure without a containment. That's what you've just claimed, Ed. Not me, you. So show it.
No, that was a conclusion based on the logic you presented.
No, that's not a conclusion. You definitely need containment, and you're claiming you don't.
Right, well then show me.
No, you're the claimant. The positive claim from Ed. I can just get a tank of any gas to show it needs containment. You're saying you don't need that, Ed.
Show me gas being contained in nature. Very
Sorry.
easy.
I can show containment for gas. Any gas requires containment. My argument is if the sky was a vacuum, that would be a space for gas to fill. You said logically you can conclude you don't need containment, but you haven't validated that, Ed. I can validate my claim. You're saying I've got to give you a natural example of containment. Okay, well, when I gave you one, you didn't like it. That was how you came in with you and your talk of containers. Me, I'm talking about how the sky's not a vacuum. I didn't mention containers. But you're yet to validate any of your claims about containers, Ed.
It's not that I didn't like your example. It was a flawed example. So can you try again?
Why? You're the one talking about containers. You're the one saying you don't need one for gas pressure. So can you show me an example of what you've claimed or not?
I didn't claim anything. You said
You said you don't need containment for gas pressure. Your logical conclusion's flawed. Therefore, you don't need a container. That's what you said multiple times. And now you're fundy muting the shit out of me.
Nathan,
Why are you
you're fundy
fundy muting
me.
the shit out of me? When I point out you have claimed it, you don't like it because then you've got to back your claim. And you'd rather fundy mute me telling you to back your claim, wouldn't
Nathan,
you?
why are you
You'd
fundy
much
muting
rather
me?
just
I wasn't
fundy
finished
mute
with
me,
my answer.
wouldn't you, you
I
scumbag
wasn't finished with
loser?
my answer.
It's so much easier to just fundy mute the crap out of your opponent when he tells you to back the claim you've made. You claimed you don't need containment. You put it on me that it was my logic that drew you to that conclusion. And all you've got in response is the fundy fucking mute burn.
No.
Yeah, that's all you're doing.
No, I wasn't done with my answer yet, and you started rumpusing through me like you always do.
Don't project what you've just done onto me. You haven't given me an example. You've used my logic by your standards to claim you don't need containment for gas pressure. That's your claim. Prove it.
It's your logic.
No, my logic is the sky vacuum is violated because gas would fill it.
But
So how'd you get from if the sky was a vacuum, gas would fill it, to you don't need containment?
For a gas pressure.
Oh, so fundy mute me. Fundy mute me again. Someone mute him. Asshole can't shut up when I make my conclusion.
Also
He's
said
ignoring me. He's
containment.
talking through me and chanting.
No, I'm not.
Mute
You're
him.
ignoring me.
Mute him. I want him to know when he's being muted. So it's clearly reasonable that it happens. Oh, server deafen time. So the conversation can't carry on. Because he knows my conclusion, if heard, has a response that can't come. So he talks through every damn word of it. And when it's taken to the point where we mute him, he server deafens. So he doesn't have to listen. He's a total coward. He's absolutely unequivocally claimed you don't need containment. He's even put it on me and said it's my logic that's drawn him to that conclusion. I'm not saying you don't need containment. I didn't mention containment. I say if the sky's a vacuum, the gas we breathe will fill the space. He doesn't want to hear it. He does want to chant through it because he's made a claim we don't need containment. It's his claim. He wants to put it on me and say my logic's drawn him to it. What a total coward.
Nathan, this
And
is
a
what
bit
they did the
he-
other day.
Yeah, but
They're
what he
trying to
wants to
claim there's
do.
no natural containers in nature.
That's his claim.
Gas being contained in nature.
What his real tactic is, Nathan, is to get muted. That's what he wants. He wants to get muted so he can claim he got muted. That way he doesn't have to deal with the argument.
No, that's not what
Come
happened.
in.
Nate,
That's
Now
exactly
he's fundy muting you. Brian, stop. Stop. Everyone stop.
Stop rumpusing him, man.
That's you included. Shut up. No, Brian, what you're now doing is pointing out his tactic that he wants to get Matt muted, and he's talking through that. While I summarise it now, he's also talking through me summarising that he wants to get muted so he can cry foul. But ultimately, his overall tactic is not listen to the response, not have us put it upon him to prove his claim. He just wants to say, no, I've come to that claim I'm making with your logic. And fundy mute me pointing that out to the audience.
no, you waited for me to talk just so you could interrupt me and then claim I'm interrupting you. That's your tactic.
No, that's your projection of what you're doing. That's projection. You do that constantly while I make my conclusions, and then you claim I've done it to you. That's called projection.
But that's literally what you did.
That's literally projection.
No, it's what you did.
Yeah,
You can-
you're continually projecting what you've done onto me.
You're doing it again. You just did it again.
So you just keep repeating the same thing so that you can claim I'm talking through you as you repeat the same thing 5 times. So this is a very base level rumpus tactic you've claimed and you've now used.
No, that's what you do. You got
Meanwhile, this fuckwit fundy arsehole globe believing wanker hasn't proved you don't need containment for gas pressure. That's the argument. So you can be damn sure while it's being summarized, he's going to be talking through him not proving his claim. He's claimed my logic drew into his claim. That's where we're at.
No, whereas you showing containment of gas in nature.
Didn't make that as a claim. Ed made that as a claim. Non-stop burden of proof reversal fallacy from here on in. Maybe move the conversation on to the discussion and how much he's getting muted as he's now interrupting me. Interrupting me, just so I can show the audience what he's doing. He'll later claim he's having that done to him. So I've now got us back onto the actual argument. He's claiming you don't need a container for gas pressure and claiming my logic drew him to that conclusion. I'm saying, no, you're not going to use my logic when my argument is gas would fill a sky vacuum, because my logic isn't in any way inferring you don't need containment, but that's what you're stating and claiming it's my logic that got you there, therefore you don't need to prove it.
So can you show the contained gas?
See, constantly on about its container and it being proven by me. No, you are claiming you don't need containment for gas pressure. My claim is very straightforward. The sky vacuum is violated because gas would fill it if it was a space for it to fill.
Yeah, I will give my full answer and I'll let you know when I'm done. So you have to wait with talking. Don't talk through me again.
Fuck off. You can suck my hairy balls, you stupid globe-believing moron. You will not take charge of this discussion. You will suck my balls. When I give you permission to talk, you'll talk. When I decide you can have the airwaves, you can have the airwaves. And while I'm making an argument that your claim that you do not need gas pressure in containment has not been validated by you, you won't get to make the argument 5 more times or move the conversation on to how much I'm talking on my show. I'll do precisely as I like. You'll do exactly as I tell you, or you'll fuck right off, you stupid globe-believing wanker.
Are you that scared of my answer, Nathan?
I've heard your answer. It's my logic that drew you to the conclusion you don't need containment to have gas pressure. I've asked you to prove that, and all you do is reverse the burden of proof and move it onto who's muting who.
You claimed gas pressure requires containment.
No, I fucking didn't, you lying sack of shit. So he's just gonna lie. I'll repeat the argument so the audience understands why I'm so angry with him and why I'm swearing so much. When you have a sky vacuum, it's... 10th, mute please. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. That is not inclusive of any claim of containment. It's a clear debunking of your globe claim the sky is a vacuum, aka space for gas to fill. No mention of containment, Ed, you liar.
Does gas pressure require...
Why are you asking me a question? I've made an argument. He's made a claim inferred to be using my logic. It's not. He's a liar.
So does it require containment, yes or no?
Does gas pressure require something to press upon? If the sky was a vacuum, the gas wouldn't have anything to press upon, Ed, given that you're bringing up what it presses on. Well, your sky vacuum doesn't have anything to press on, Ed. I know you're bringing up containment. You're yet to prove we don't need containment, though. I'm saying a space for gas to fill would have it fill it. That's my argument. That's my claim. What about not having containment, Ed, as you've brought it up? Can you show gas pressure without containment, as you brought it up?
So just to be clear, you don't claim that gas pressure requires containment.
I think I've said it 7 times. I claim that if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill it.
Yeah, but that's not what I asked about. I asked...
Oh, really? So it's not what I'm claiming because it's not what you asked? I'm claiming the sky is not a vacuum. Space is fake. If the sky was a vacuum, gas would fill it. But it's not what you're asking about. Oh, I give 2 shits about what you're asking about. I'm debunking space. Outer space. The sky vacuum. Definitely not so. Because if it was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill it, Ed. Maybe you'd like to prove some of your claims about containers. that I don't mention in my claim about the sky vacuum being fake?
Maybe you would like to stay on topic then.
Okay, if the sky was a vacuum, then we'd all be dead. The gas we breathe would fill it. That's the topic. Outer space being fake.
No, the topic is containment.
Oh, really? You're the host now. You're going to decide what topic we talk about, in spite of me asking this question over 1,000 times and it never receiving a reasonable answer. We get fuckwits like you asking me to prove your claim of non-containment based on my logic that the sky vacuum's violated by the fact we have gas pressure.
So again, you don't claim gas pressure requires containment?
Sorry, I claim that if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. That's the 8th time I've told you. Are you so stupid that you can't comprehend an argument that debunks space and need to turn it into an argument about containers that you're not going to back in any way, shape or form and merely continually burden a proof reversal fallacy like Ed normally does? That's the best you've got because you're not proving anything about containers.
Was the first thing I asked.
But you are doing quite a lot of fundy muting. Maybe project what you've just done is me doing it to you, Ed. Go ahead. Project that shit all over me.
First thing I asked about is containment and containers. So why are you switching?
Because my point is an absolute stone cold killer of a claim we have a sky vacuum. Your claim disproves that coconuts aren't closed systems. So your claim is absolutely benign in a debate about the nature of our reality, and literally the words of a fuckwit, my claim debunks space. So which we're going to talk about, Ed? You complete clown.
Well, I was asking about containers, okay?
Yeah, you were asking about containers. I was asking about something much more grand. That would be the sky vacuum you fundies think you live in.
Yeah, what about the sky containment then?
Oh, do you want to back your claim of the sky containment, Ed? Because you're now claiming it. You understand that, right?
No, I'm not claiming it.
Oh, why did you say it then? So you're going to say something and then say you're not claiming it after specifically stating it? What kind of fuckwittery is this?
I was asking about it, dumbass.
Asking about it because I've claimed it? No, Ed, I didn't. Maybe I hadn't made that clear on the 8 previous occasions that I made clear I hadn't claimed it. You're bringing it up, like you said, Ed. You're the one who's come in and talked about containers that you're not backing with any evidence in any way, shape or form and constantly ask us to back. Right, Ed? Meanwhile, space is fake. The whole bullshit NASA vibe. It's all nonsense, Ed. That's what I'm debunking. Want to talk about coconuts a bit more, you dipshit?
Embarrassing.
So the sky doesn't need containment then, Nathan?
If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill it, Ed. NASA's lying. They say they operate in a vacuum in the sky. They're lying, mate. We'd all be dead. Maybe query what the sky is now. Welcome to Flat Earth. You wonder what the sky is like we do now, Ed. Oh, so you're in the same boat as us. You're wondering what the sky is. Man, you're in the same boat as us. We know it's not a vacuum, though, Ed. That's my argument.
But you claim you know it's contained.
I didn't, Ed. You are the one constantly talking about containment. I'm debunking space. That's 9 times this fuckwit can't cope with my argument that doesn't mention containment. Can't cope with that, Ed. Got to insert that containment you're claiming, because I'm definitely not, Ed.
So it's safe to say that Nathan doesn't think it's a container.
You don't claim the sky needs containment.
I claim if the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill it. 9 times.
That's not what I asked about.
Oh, really? So my claim's ignored because it's not what you asked? Your questions about containers don't really bother me, Ed. My claim is the sky isn't a vacuum because we'd all be dead. Gas expands in all directions, and if the sky was a vacuum, we'd all be dead. So we're definitely not living in a sky vacuum. All of the claims of a sky vacuum are debunked. All claims of pictures taken from a sky vacuum are debunked. That's what I'm doing, Ed. You can argue about containers and coconuts all day long, you screwed up fundy with a globe belief, because it doesn't address the sky vacuum you haven't got, which is what my point addresses, Ed.
If my questions don't bother you, why are you running so hard?
Oh, I'm really worried about containers in nature when the sky's not a vacuum and we're being lied to about it being a vacuum and pictures coming from there. Yeah, let's worry about natural containers for a while.
You're lying about the sky being contained because
I didn't mention containment about the sky, did I? You did, Ed. You only got this one trick pony, yeah? Just the version of proof reversal fallacy. Is that all you've got, Ed? If I'm not claiming containment for you to straw man and take apart, then you're not going to play, right, Ed? Only got the one trick up your sleeve. What a wanker.
Did you not listen to yourself the past 1400 episodes?
Oh, let's just try again. Without the container, there can be no pressure. That's a quote from Conspiracy Cats. Go and take it up with him.
So you're not claiming...
That's a quote from Conspiracy Cats. Quote, without the container, there can be no pressure. That's a quote from Conspiracy Cats. Go and take it up with him. That's his argument. That's his quote. He had a little picture of a balloon and showed how if there wasn't a balloon, there wouldn't be any pressure. That's his argument. I haven't made that claim. Conspiracy Cats has. Now fuck off and go and debate with some other fuckwit globe-believing moron about whether or not you need containers. Because my argument's about space being fake. Because if the sky was a vacuum, 11 times, then the gas we breathe would fill the space.
So
what's holding the gas in then?
think the sky needs containment then?
Is that your conclusion, Ed? That's your conclusion.
I'm asking.
Oh, well, you can draw your own conclusions about what the sky will be, Ed. I don't give a shit. I know it's not a fake space vacuum for NASA to take pictures from.
Do you mind if I ask him one question just to speed this on? Nathan, what is holding the gas in?
I don't know.
No, again.
How the hell should I know? We're lied to on a massive scale about it being a vacuum. Why would I suddenly be the arbiter of what NASA lie about?
See, that's the problem with
Elijah,
that,
hold
right?
on.
Like,
Hold on, Elijah. Noakes. Why would I know that?
Nokes?
Nukes, whatever you're called.
Wait, were you using me? Nakes.
Nakes. Why would I know that?
Well, you seem to be pretty adamant that you're being lied to about what's outside the sky.
Oh, because if the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the space. Did you not hear the 11 renditions of my actual argument?
I heard it just sound like you were avoiding his question.
Sorry, we're back on to me avoiding a question rather than addressing what my argument's been made 11 times. You seem to be avoiding my argument. Why would that be? Nokes, nukes, whatever the fuck you're called. My argument's been made 11 times, and I'm going to make it to you now, hopefully without interruption. If the sky was a vacuum, I'll caveat. I haven't got a clue what the sky is, and I don't profess to, like NASA do. They definitely claim to know what the sky is. They say it's a fucking vacuum. But it won't be a vacuum. That's a complete lie, because gas expands in all directions, and if it was a vacuum, we'd all be dead. So they're lying. That's my claim. Maybe respond to it. Maybe respond to it, Nakes. Or maybe tell me it's not the question he's asking, like a total coward.
Which part am I responding to?
13 times. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Therefore, space, outer space, a sky vacuum, Nakes, is fake. All of the information you, me, and everyone else has been given about the sky is a complete lie. Now, that doesn't suddenly infer that I know all about what the sky is, but you are presumably a believer in a sky vacuum. So let's not worry about coconuts. Let's worry about fake space. Can you address my claim that if the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill that space? That's my claim. You've had it 14 times.
Okay, sure. Why does the gas that's lower not fill, the higher end of this container or whatever is preventing the gas from escaping?
Right, what container? So you are now claiming a container. You realise this?
I said container or whatever it is that is stopping the gas from escaping.
Or whatever. So you don't fucking know either.
I'm going by your
Sorry,
claim,
do you want to
because you don't
respond? Listen to what I just said. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So you don't fucking know then. Why would I know? You don't fucking know. Stop talking when I talk. Stop.
I'm going by your claim.
Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth before you start responding. So, or whatever means you do not have the slightest idea what the sky is or isn't. I know
Do
in
you?
this instance, yeah, that's it, mate. When I've told you to shut the fuck up. What's your malfunction, you stupid retard? Nakes.
Yes.
Do you have a
Stop
low
crying
IQ?
and just
Do
mute
you not
Discord.
understand? Shut the fuck up. Do you have a low IQ? Simple instructions beyond your capabilities, are they?
Do you not understand that you can just mute Discord as you always do? Stop whining.
Oh, thanks, Ed. I'll just mute you. Nakes.
Yes.
So you don't appreciate that you're now claiming containment of the sky?
I've never claimed that.
So you're now professing to be in total understanding of what the sky is. Really, what's the container made of,
No,
Nakes?
I'm asking about your understanding of it.
I don't know. I made that
You're making
explicitly clear to you, you stupid shit. When I said specifically to you, I do not know, why would I know? Now we're at it being your claim, because you're saying the container or whatever, meaning you haven't got a fucking clue. Like, I don't know either and made clear to you.
That's not.
Did you?
That's not
Shut
my
up.
claim.
Shut the fuck up, dumb globe-believing moron, while I tell you off. Either you're deaf or dumb or just ignorant or don't listen. I made it explicitly clear after you asked that I don't know, and now it's clear neither do you. None of us do. But it's obviously going to be a burden of proof reversal fallacy when you start talking about the container or whatever that I didn't mention. Yeah, because you need to straw man me with that container, don't you, mate? You need to set fire to that argument about the container, don't you?
Are you struggling to comprehend that you are claiming that there is something preventing the gas from escaping?
No, I didn't make that claim. What words did I say that made that claim? Repeat them back verbatim.
So you don't know if there is.
Don't ask me what I didn't. Are you fucking thick or what? Repeat back verbatim what I said that made that claim. Do I need to say it 3 times to you, dumb low IQ shit that can't comprehend? Simple fucking English.
You said that.
Shut up!
I was a vacuum.
You dumb shit, shut up!
Do you want me to respond?
You have
or
just
not?
told me
Just
that I
response.
Right. Why? This is why you get muted, scumbags. Quote me verbatim what I said that made that claim in regards to containment. Quote me.
If the sky was a vacuum, all the gas would escape and we would die.
That didn't mention containment at all.
I didn't either.
Yo, you stuttering fuckwit. That didn't mention containment at all. You stupid shit.
Neither did I.
No, shithead. You are going to strawman me with a container you are now claiming. Or whatever.
I'm sorry, did I say container in that sentence?
Yeah, you stupid fucking retard.
Okay, let me repeat what I said. If the sky was a vacuum.
Yeah, I know my own fucking claim. I claim it. It doesn't mention container. You seem to be strawmanning me with containers, though, don't you?
I did not say container once, though.
Yeah. Anybody on the panel? How many times did he mention container and rebuttal?
Are you referring to earlier?
That's not you, Nakes.
Plenty of times.
Plenty of times.
Multiple times. Here's the
Nakes.
thing that
Nakes.
when they say that you're not answering their question has a claim in it that you didn't make.
Yeah, Nakes. You dumb shit. You have claimed containment on multiple occasions, unlike my claim that you managed to repeat back without the word container being mentioned once. So it's definitely only you claiming this container, or whatever. Do you not remember the container or whatever that you fucking claimed? You stupid, demented retard?
Alright, so for your claim that if the sky was a vacuum, meaning that all the gas would escape, that would mean that either the gas goes on forever, meaning that the atmosphere or whatever you like to call it, just goes on forever, never ends.
Stop!
Or there is something preventing it from escaping.
Stop! Atmosphere or whatever I call it, I definitely don't assume air is taking the shape of a sphere. That's you and your oxymoron.
Okay, then
Stop
just
talking. You are stupid as shit, aren't you? I do not assume atmosphere. When you try and ascribe words like atmosphere to what I claim, as you just stated, I will stop you and point out that no, that's your claim. of atmosphere
Okay,
or whatever. Don't talk.
I said atmosphere.
Mate, I know
or
it's
whatever you
painful.
call it.
I know being humiliated by me, the flat earther's painful. But no, whatever or your claim of atmosphere is not my claim of atmosphere. It's yours.
What do you call it then? What do you call it then?
What are you calling it? You see, it seems that you need me
I'm
to
asking,
be...
what are
Shut
you
up.
calling it?
Why is it that you're asking me what I call it and then talking immediately through my reply? Why? Low IQ?
Because you're asking me what I call it.
You asked me, you stupid shit.
Okay, what do you call
So
it?
shut the fuck up! Are you retarded? I mean, literally, have you been assessed?
Are you okay?
I'm asking you if you've been
It's a
assessed.
simple question.
Have you been assessed for mental retardation? I'm being dead serious. You strike me as thick, like below normal IQ levels.
Results show otherwise, but we'll go with it.
So
shut up,
if I could say
Elijah.
something here.
So, Nate,
Okay.
on several occasions, you have claimed containment or whatever, an atmosphere
I've
or whatever,
never
and now
I've
you're
never claimed
talking
containment.
through me again like somebody who's mentally retarded.
Does that make you that
It
same
means
thing?
you
'Cause
need
probably
to
the people
shut
who don't.
up. Are you really this stupid? You can't cope with someone telling you something. Yeah, I know I'm a flat
Well,
earther and
then.
it must be painful for you, but that doesn't mean you're going to get away with constantly interrupting every word I say. You have made the logical inference that there must be containment or whatever, not me. Now, because you're making that logical inference, I hold you to task on it, don't I? And like Ed, you really don't like that. But I don't need to make any claims about containment. But you see, the problem is when I violate the claim of a space vacuum for a sky, you then make the logical inference that containment's required without me needing to. And then it really frazzles your brain when I ask you to account for your claim that there's containment, because I'm not claiming it.
I don't claim this container.
Well, you mentioned it several times and then told me that that was my logical inference, not realizing that it was yours, because you're stupid. Low IQ.
Right.
Yeah, so that container you mentioned. Right. That's where Ged gets it from. Right. Yeah, I've just been absolutely pummeled by a flat earther. That's right. So you've inferred containment or whatever, and then denied it on multiple occasions. Do you forget saying the container or whatever?
I remember saying that.
So we're now all clear that it's your claim that we have a container or whatever. And what the hell is this container you're claiming? Because I've just debunked out of space. Didn't mention container. Your logical inference is now that we've got containment. What's the container you're claiming? Yo! You stupid idiot! What is the container you claim the sky is?
There is no
Globe-believing
container.
clown.
I do not claim a container.
We just established that you do.
No, I did not.
So now you're going to deny it again? So I'll try again. It seems you're in cognitive dissonance where you both simultaneously have a container or whatever, and you're not claiming it. Are you thick? Memory loss, maybe amnesia.
No, I do not claim. I do not claim that there is a container.
Sorry, do you not
Never
remember
have, never will.
stating, and I quote, the container or whatever, end
Whilst
quote.
asking
Nakes,
about your claim?
nakes,
Yes, I did say that.
nakes. I know it's painful.
Nathan.
I know it's painful. I'm a flat earther humiliating you. I know. But yeah, you definitely claimed a container or whatever. Those are your words being quoted back to you. I didn't claim them. The only one who mentioned them was you. But yet you want to deny that you've claimed them because it's so painful for me to now scream at you that you need to conclude by showing us this container you have absolutely claimed, because I didn't claim the container or whatever. Nakes? Mr. Amnesia,
Are
going to
you
deny it again?
mentally okay? I've never once claimed that there is a container.
Or whatever. So I need to trim out your cognitive pain, do I? Because you definitely did.
No.
Sorry, do we need the panel to remind you how many times you mentioned the container or whatever?
Feel free to clip it and put in the chat that I am claiming that there is a container.
Well, nobody else brought it up, mate. You did.
Just because I mentioned the words in a question towards you does not mean I'm claiming that thing.
Oh, really? So it's a straw man then? I haven't claimed it, but you're going to claim I need to prove it on your behalf. That's called a straw man fallacy.
So if I asked you what color...
So you're not going to concede that you've just used a straw man fallacy? I'm not claiming it, but you're going to bring it up so I have to justify a claim I haven't made. That is called a straw man fallacy. Next, do you understand what a straw man is?
I didn't know. I wasn't saying that you...
Stutter for me, you fundy fuckwit. Yeah, that's right. It's called a straw man. I didn't fucking claim it, but you're going to bring it up like I've got to defend it? That's called a straw man fallacy. You stupid, low IQ moron.
No, if you make a claim and someone asks a question about it...
Did I claim container, panel? Hello? Did he bring up container or whatever, or did I? Yeah, I can assure you I didn't bring up container, you did.
I was merely asking you about your claim.
My claim that if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathed would fill the space?
Yes.
Yeah, that's backed by the second law of thermodynamics, free expansion into a vacuum.
All right.
Yeah, it's taught in universities.
Let me answer that
So
question. for you, Nathan.
can forces be applied to...
So, if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathed would fill the space. This time you don't seem to be mentioning containers as straw men.
Because if I mention anything, you'll take it as my claim.
Well, I didn't mention container. What do you want? You want to bring up containers or whatever, and then strawman the shit out of me, and then fundy mute when I point out that you're strawmanning the shit out of me? Yeah, that's just a logical fallacy you're employing to try and get one over on me when I didn't make that claim. But you're going to make me defend it, even though I didn't claim it. Yeah, strawman fallacy.
Then,
but whatever you
elaborate on what you mean.
But I'll constantly interrupt Nathan. Yeah, I know you're losing. Yeah, so no, don't bring up strawmen for me to defend when I didn't claim containment. Otherwise, you'll get yelled at to prove the container you claimed. And then you'll spend 10 minutes in cognitive dissonance claiming you didn't bring up containers. You're not claiming them because they're actually just straw men I'm using. Yeah, you fucking asshole. Straw manning me with containers you don't know about and can't prove, but suddenly aren't claiming. You straw man using asshole. How do my balls taste? Nakes. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Outer space, a sky vacuum where NASA operate, is fake, Nakes. It's all fake. How'd you like them apples?
Right.
Yeah, right. That's right. Welcome to Flat Earth. All your claim to proofs of a sphere from a sky vacuum are all fake. That's right.
I had a bet how long it would take for Nathan to mention his balls. I win.
So, sky vacuum's fake, Nakes.
Sorry?
Fake.
Nathan, talk about your balls some more. You sound so smart.
Space is
he might
fake,
be a bit
whoever
obsessed
that
with
is.
having guys lick his balls or something.
Stop watching porn, dude.
Sorry, whoever that is going to get kicked out. I am disproving space.
Go ahead.
Please talk about your balls.
That's what they do. So, metaphorically, in an equivalent...
Kick that
you've
idiot
got...
out.
Thanks, Neil. In a video game, the person with the skill to shoot the other person at 400 yards and watch their head explode, and then run over there or helicopter their way over there just so they can teabag them. Yeah? The person getting teabagged then says your teabagging skills weren't very good. That's what that guy's just done. Yeah? Nakes, on the other hand, has had it absolutely screwed into him. Because he's got to claim logical inference of containment when I don't need to, as a rebuttal. So he can burn it as a straw man.
To?
You tell me, you brought it up.
Well, you're the one saying that you don't need to.
The positive claim is on them.
I'm asking why.
It's their positive claim that the sky is a vacuum. That's the positive claim.
Is it not the flat earthers that are trying to prove to the world that the, I don't know, is something preventing gas from escaping?
Oh, sorry, what, your little straw man again? So ignore that we're disproving space. Ignore that bit. Aren't you trying to prove there's a dome?
It's pretty simple.
Shut the fuck up. What is your malfunction, wanker? No, we're not trying to prove a fucking dome. I know you need to strawman us with it. I've pointed that out twice. Maybe try it again, you stupid dick.
Are you trying to prove that space is fake?
Yes! That's my proof. Gas would be filling it if it was a vacuum. I've disproved space. Am I trying to prove a dome? Maybe strawman me with that little shitty nut name. Nut again. Go on.
It's snakes. It's not that hard to understand.
Do you want to strawman me again? I thought you were trying to prove a dome. No, not at all, mate. Only you're mentioning that. Me, I'm disproving space as a vacuum. That's what I'm doing. Maybe that wasn't clear, even though I mentioned it 15 times.
Okay, so there is nothing holding in the gas, but there is something holding in the gas. I'm very confused by your answer.
My answer that space is fake?
Yep.
Well, space is fake because if it was a vacuum, we'd all be dead. Gas would have filled it. It's a vast space claimed to be, and if that was the case, we'd all be dead.
Why don't you
Okay,
address that?
so we'll go with you know, you're not holding the claim that there is container and stuff like that. That's fair enough. But there is gas here. And if space is fake, what is on the other side of the gas?
Oh, the original question that you asked me. I don't know what the sky is. Maybe literally the third rendition of the original question you asked, and I answered really clearly to you and politely. I don't know.
Okay.
And neither do you. And neither does anybody. We've
So
all been
you-
lied to.
you-
And
so
while
you
I
don't-
point this
you
out,
don't know
you're
what's
going to take your
there.
opportunity to talk right through me. Right? At the conclusion point.
You do it all the time.
So why are you talking right through the middle of my statements?
You can't expect me to respect your talking thing when you talk over me. Just as
I'll do what the fuck I like. I'm right. Space is fake.
how do you know you're right?
Because space is fake. That's the claim I'm making. There
That's
is no
not-
sky
that's not
vacuum.
that.
Maybe talk straight through the middle of what you've just asked me. You fucking coward.
So how are you so
So
certain?
stutter your way through a new question. My statement again. Space is fake. There's no sky vacuum. We'd all be dead. The gas we breathe would fill it.
Okay,
If we weren't thinking about space, if we weren't thinking about, you know, this religion, right? So if you said,
religion?
well, there's an area where there is air, and then there is an area where there's less air. The area with more air is going to, the air is going to move to the area with less air. That's just a true statement.
Okay.
So now,
so why is the air at the bottom not going up?
problem with that is when you apply it to the assumption or the claim that the sky is an area with less space than the air in the area here. We know that it would go there if that was the scenario. What it is, we don't know, but we know it's not that.
When you say sky, do you mean like outside of what we
I said
can
what I said, and I
reach?
said basically what
I'm
Nathan has
asking
been
to
saying for
elaborate.
2 hours. Why are you asking for elaboration? You're just
that's
not
why.
listening.
Because I don't know what you mean by sky.
Yeah, he's thick. Doesn't
I mean,
know because he doesn't understand 14 renditions from 2 different people. He's thick.
It's
wanna
not
hear
that,
yours.
Nathan. It's simply the fact that on Thursday's briefing, yeah, they didn't get past the point that actually we wouldn't see through their straw man, so they're lost. That's all they've done from the point that they try to take you to the straw man. Yeah, they keep bumbling backwards because clearly they either have to leave yesterday's meeting early, or yesterday's meeting didn't cover what to do next. It's very, very weak on first guy and his white knight.
Yeah. What do you do when you
Dead
can't
on.
hold the flat earther to a container he's trying to prove? Well, I'm not trying to prove a container. But you need me to be trying to prove a container because then I'm not trying to disprove space. And you can argue all day long about domes. But yeah, I've decided a long time ago that I'm not going to make any claims in that regard because then I don't have to defend them. But when someone challenges me to, I point out that they're using a straw man fallacy. And then they stutter and bumble and interrupt their way through the next hour or so, not being able to actually concede that my argument isn't debunked by anything they've said. None of the interruptions, none of him asking me about containers he strawmans me with, none of that in any way disproves my statement of fact that the sky is not a vacuum. If it was, we'd all be dead because the gas we breathe would fill it. Have we had a rebuttal to that? Have we? No, because I'm right. The sky isn't a vacuum. And every claim of any proof that is supposed to have come from that fake place is automatically debunked. And a lot of what these clowns hang their hat on relies on space being real. And it isn't. They've got nothing in rebuttal.
Well, they claim that
The
our housekeeping
positive-
question says that because one of our housekeeping questions is you can demonstrate any evidence you could have gas pressure out of container. So that's what they're trying to tie you to. They're morons.
The positive claim is coming from their side originally, that the sky is a vacuum. We're claiming that it's not, that that's an impossibility. If they say it isn't an impossibility, then they have to prove it. It's their positive claim, and it's been a claim for decades.
And it's something they experience.
As a standalone, it's also true that you can't have gas pressure without containment. As a standalone.
Well, that's when Nathan said, and he quoted conspiracy cats, without the container, there can be no pressure. All Nathan was saying is that you guys are saying the sky is a vacuum, like Brian just said. It's their first claim that there's outer space is a vacuum, 10 to the 17 torr, okay, minus 17 torr. Nathan said, if the sky is a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Outer space is fake. To which they responded, are you saying it's a container? He says, that's not my claim. My claim is that when you say it's a vacuum, I'm destroying that because the gas we breathe would fill it. And it's not. And if it did, we'd be dead. And they want to go to that straw man and say, so you're saying it's contained. He never even mentioned containment.
Yeah, Nathan is just pointing out what it's not, what it can't be, not what it is.
And it's
devastating. He said, I don't know what the sky is. He even told him he doesn't know what the sky is. He just knows it can't be a vacuum. How much more do they want?
They want me to tell them what it is so they can take that apart rather than arguing about how fake space is.
This was a great straw man scenario lesson for everyone to listen to because they were struggling.
Yeah, I don't know why they
you know
tried
what's
that.
important about. Sorry, go ahead, Neil.
I was just saying, I don't know why they constantly try that. Ridiculous. You make yourself look stupid.
But here's my thing. Like, I don't understand. Well, okay. If I would speculate, I would blame it on media because obviously these are questions about claims that can't be answered. So somewhere in the media, the answer, well, the straw man is given. And that's why they bring it here. And when we bring the arguments to its logical conclusion, they don't know how to do anything else but repeat themselves. But what I don't understand is if you can be shown that this is actually what's happening, why don't they just, like, why are they, okay, so if we're saying, well, if the sky was a vacuum, then the air we breathe would fill it. Why can't you just admit, well, yeah, that is kind of ridiculous?
Are you kidding?
What's wrong with that? Why is it that they're fighting? And okay, so what you're saying, okay, you tell me, and I'll tell you exactly why. I've been saying this for a minute. Globe earthers don't have an imagination. They can't even imagine how their world works because then they would spot the contradictions like we do. They have no imagination. It goes by a need to know basis.
I don't know. They got a vast imagination.
Well, I think that what their main angle is just to come in like they did and do their best to waste as much of Nathan's time and our time as possible. That's really all they do. Like, the positive claim is that the sky is a vacuum, and Ed wanted to argue about containers. It's like, we're not here arguing about containers. We're arguing about the positive claim that the sky is a vacuum. And they want to come in and just waste time and mess around and just basically all they want to do is just try and make Nathan irate with them. That's all
Show
they're
me a
doing.
container in nature.
Yeah, it's what and Nathan said coconut, and he wasn't happy because he got the exact answer he wanted.
He didn't
Just
ask
time
for a
wasters.
system
That's
at
all they
first.
are.
He did not ask for a system at first. He said, show me a container in nature. Then he changed it to system.
Yeah, it said closed container, and someone, I think it was you, was saying, no, he's asking for an isolated system. And I was like, no, he's asking for a closed system. So I added system.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you weren't claiming anything because you said, I don't know what the sky is. That's your personal stance on it. Okay. And they were trying to get you to claim something and you weren't even claiming.
Yeah, take apart the straw man. There's plenty of controlled up narratives out there that are given to globe earthers so that they can come in and use them as straw men. You know, boats going over edges. That's a straw man that's introduced so that we have to defend it when we don't claim it. Domes. Well, what dome? I don't know what the sky is. Well, here you go. Here's your flat Earth model. What flat Earth model? I haven't claimed to have mapped out the world. Well, here's your model. Here's your dome over it. How'd you prove it? It's not mine. I haven't claimed any of that. Yeah, but it's out there as a flat earther. You just got to believe in that so I can debunk it. And they don't know what to do. They shit their pants when someone like me says, I'm not claiming that. Give me a quote. Quote how I've claimed it. The guy earlier was like, you've said it. No, I haven't. Give me a quote. And it's off on into the weeds with distractions because he can't claim I've quoted it. Because what I have actually done is made Brian's point in the housekeeping questions. My question, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container, is the assertion of their positive claim. Their positive claim being we have gas pressure without containment. That's what they're claiming Earth is. Here's a picture of it with Starman. I say picture, what an absolute joke. But here's gas pressure, no containment, and here's a vacuum. So when I ask for proof that that's possible, it's concisely summarised with any evidence that you can have gas pressure, as Earth is claimed to be, without containment. That's what Earth's claimed to be. That's an assertion of their claim. But they want to flip the burden of proof around and say, well, you're claiming container then. No. Your sky vacuum is a claim without containment. That's what needs to be proven. That's the positive claim. Hey, Eli.
Hello.
Anyone want to add anything else before we round out?
Yeah. They know that if you go buy propane, you need a container. If they know you get a can of spray paint, you need containment. Any kind of pressurized air system has a container. Air pressure I have here on the farm when the tires get low. It has to build up pressure within a container. So then we say, fine, does Earth have air pressure? Yes, we do. Great. How does it work next to a vacuum? They don't like that. So they have to play games.
Yeah. Yep. So today was a very good show. It was a good showing of how you stick with the fundamental claims that the heliocentric model makes. Because I mean, you could spend hours trying to go inside and argue from within the weeds, but the thing about it is you don't have to. When someone doesn't respect you, when someone is being verbally abusive, or when someone's being passive aggressive, they basically come to you to basically tell you, I'm acting as if I'm asking you something, but I don't give a damn about what you're saying. You don't owe them your time. When you stick with the fundamentals and they want to deviate, fuck them.
I got something to say. They pulled this with me the other day when I went in there. And if you don't push that hard enough, they're going to say, just go outside and measure air pressure. And whatever it says, boom, see? You don't need a container.
Well, in the same way I responded to, is it MC Toon from the super chat? Somebody said that MC Toon also makes that exact claim, which is presumably what this has come from. Well, I'll make the exact same disclaimer that I made when reading out that super chat, which is pretty much directly to MC Toon. Fine. If you want to make the claim that you don't need gas pressure without a container, then you need to demonstrate gas pressure without a container beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that the Earth is a sphere. So beyond your belief that the sky is a vacuum, demonstrate your claim that it's possible to have gas pressure without a container, as is asserted the Earth is. So don't just beg the question and say, well, Earth does that, go outside, we have gas pressure, and the sky is a vacuum. Actually demonstrate gas pressure without a container beyond your fundamentalist religious belief that the sky is a vacuum. With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, or becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!